For them. Manchester United coming forward. Van der Beek now to the left hand, rather slows it and comes forward, just trots forward with the ball at his feet, uses Pogba, little drop of the shoulder. Pogba gets the ball back from Martial. Here it goes again for Pogba. Van der Beek takes it on. Matic just outside the area, stabs it through to the edge of the box. Pogba went down on the edge of the area as the challenge came in on him, looked to the referee, and then there is a foul nearer the halfway line on Forsberg, and it's a free kick to Leipzig.
Swedish teammate Lindelof bringing him down.
So it's a free kick to Leipzig. 0-0 here at Old Trafford. It is a red button night tonight, by the way, with 5 Live final score, so you can listen to our commentary alongside all of the various graphics, final score graphics, the video printer. If you press the red button on your remote control, you'll find it there, or you can go to BBC iPlayer or the BBC Sport app and click on 5 Live final score. Fred tidying up at the back, plays it across to De Gea. Long right-footed clearance from the Manchester United goalkeeper. And then RB Leipzig take up possession again inside their own half with Halstenberg. Uses Angelino at close quarters. Angelino turns and gives it back again to Halstenberg behind him.
What they don't have, RB Leipzig, is that blistering pace up top. Yusuf Poulsen, who's a very versatile player, can play as a 9, more off the wide areas. He's not one who, at this moment in time, hasn't threatened in behind, and neither of Leipzig. They've got some good technicians, haven't they? Danny Olmo, who's a little gem of a player, and Forsberg, another creative player. United have been pretty comfortable at the moment at the back.
They have. Manchester United 0, RB Leipzig 0. Matic steps across, and then Fred operating on this right-hand side mainly, plays the ball back into central defence. Birmingham City have scored their first goal in 4 matches. 1-0 up on Huddersfield Town. That's a sturdy challenge by Konate on Martial over on the far side, and indeed it is given as a free kick 5 yards inside the United half. In the Champions League, Lazio winning 1-0 in Belgium against Bruges. That's the Borussia Dortmund Zenit St. Petersburg group. That's 0-0 in that match. And Preston 0, Millwall 1. Kenneth Zohore has opened the scoring for Millwall. That's the 7 o'clock kickoff. Zohore scoring with almost an hour played in that match. And a goal in the Juventus-Barcelona match, Conor McNamara.
Maybe 2 goals to tell you about. One is certainly counted. Barcelona taking the lead through Ousmane Dembele, a run that started on the halfway line. He weaved to the edge of the penalty area. His shot then took a deflection which guided it beyond the goalkeeper. So Barcelona leading by 1-0 after 14 minutes. And now Alvaro Morata has run forward and has put the ball into the Barcelona net, but I don't think it's going to count. VAR are looking at it. Does it come off his hand in the aftermath? There's going to be a VAR review, but for the moment Barcelona lead in Turin. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1.
OK, Conor, we'll be back with you for more on that. But 0-0 here, Manchester United 0, RB Leipzig 0, BBC Radio 5 Live. Welcome as well to listeners to BBC Radio Manchester, who are with us this evening here at Old Trafford, as Shaw hits a long pass. This is into the penalty area, looking for Greenwood, who's all over the back of Halstenberg and concedes the free kick. And it's just inside the visiting penalty area, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, and Halstenberg proving that he's no slouch. Good run from Greenwood, space in behind. Ball clipped in the channel. But they're a well-oiled outfit. This RB Leipzig side, very versatile, flexible. Some good players. No fluke there, top of the Bundesliga.
Yep, top of the Bundesliga, unbeaten in 7 matches. They are currently 1 point ahead of Bayern Munich, the Champions League holders, the German champions. Here's Greenwood. Greenwood centrally lifts the ball forward for Pogba to make the chase. Gets there inside the Leipzig right back area. Then the ball played into the penalty area by Shaw, but that's just presented to Konate, who brings it forward, but Fred was in the right position inside the centre circle to block the attempted pass forward. However, RB Leipzig come again on the right-hand side with the Dane, Poulsen. Poulsen now cutting in from the right flank, plays it across the edge of the penalty area, but Wan-Bissaka steps forward, and United have got it back, although he didn't know Forsberg was behind him. But fortunately for him and United, Forsberg fouls him, and it's a free kick to United.
Yeah, I think both teams, John, is fair to say, once they've gotten to the final third, have just lacked that little bit of quality, that final pass, that cutting edge. Defence is on top.
Paris Saint-Germain were winning 2-0. Was that the final score? Istanbul 0, PSG 2? I think it was. Yes, it was. PSG winning 2-0 in Istanbul earlier. So Paris Saint-Germain now joining RB Leipzig and Manchester United on 3 points in this group. And United, it is in possession inside their own half. Julian Nagelsmann is watching in that. It's a check print on that jacket, isn't it? It's a sky blue or very light grey jacket. It's quite a tight fit, isn't it? It's not very long either.
Some people can carry that off, John.
Yeah. And black trousers, black suede shoes, and a silvery tie as well to match the little jacket.
I'm a big fan of the silvery ties.
He just turned towards us at the moment there while we were watching him, and we saw that it glint under the floodlights.
Is that not sort of very 1970s, a silvery tie?
Silvery tie, silvery moon. Here's Matic.
Silver spoon.
Silver spoon. Long ball from Matic that Angelino takes down, and now approaches the halfway line, but he finds Fred in front of him, so he turns and plays it back into central defence. So I'm always intrigued to see what Julian Nagelsmann will come up with. I don't know about you, he never looks entirely comfortable in quite a number of the get-ups that he wears. No?
Look, I've never really analysed him in that sort of fashion, and his, what he's wearing and how he's standing in his technical area.
Yeah.
It's not something I'd wear, John.
No.
Having modelled for top man.
No. I'll tell you what it's got. It's got a little bit of the look of, with the Ryder Cup, when you get a young golfer wearing the choice of the captain, who might be in his 40s or his 50s.
But in Germany, John, that may well be fashionable.
It may well be, yeah.
I mean, they're a big fan of flip-flops and socks, aren't they, in Germany?
Well, I think there was a time. Yeah, but as you say, it could be Deutsche chic, as far as we know. Manchester United 0, RB Leipzig. Martial it's the assistant who's called that as a foul to Manchester United. Campbell puts his palms wide apart, and it's a free kick that Manchester United will have over here on the right-hand side.
Yeah, soft one there. Campbell playing with great intensity. Just a little tug on Martial, but not too much in that.
By the way, after what Connor was saying, Barcelona still lead by just 1-0. So the goal that Connor was talking about was ruled out by VAR. So Dembele's goal, Juventus 0, Barcelona 1. And United take the free kick, move play out towards the far side in front of the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. We're here in the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, on the same side as the coaches, Nagelsmann, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer we've seen, but it's Mike Phelan at the moment on the edge of the coaching area. United winning a throw-in on the far side off Poulsen, 10 yards inside the Leipzig half. Throw-in taken to Pogba, who hikes it infield, straight at Forsberg. Fred has to win it back. Well done, Fred. Pogba now driving forward with it, plays it through to Greenwood, left side of the area, shoots across the goalkeeper and in. That is a very tidy finish by Mason Greenwood, who drops to his knees, slides away, having scored for the second time this season, and points to the skies above Old Trafford. Manchester United in front against Leipzig by 1-0.
I'll tell you what a run from Greenwood. And what a ball. Just wonder whether they'll be checking this, though, for offside. But it's Pogba off the left-hand side. Good driving run. And Greenwood runs in between the two centre-halves. Oh, it's a very, very close one. I think as the ball's been played, I think he's just offside, John.
Well, VAR will obviously be having a look at this, and we'll wait.
It's a very, very tight one, isn't it? It's one of those millimetre ones. Great run in between the centre halves. Weight of pass perfect from Pogba. They are checking it.
Kicked off. Still not kicked off. There is a goal check going on. This is a significant moment for Mason Greenwood. This is his first start in the Champions League. This would be his first goal in the Champions League. It was a very good finish from the angle. Very cute finish, actually, with his left foot across the goalkeeper. Rolled it past Gulacsi.
Well, we're seeing this on the screen, and at the point when he's passing, it's so he's given it.
It's been given.
To the naked eye, it looked like his foot was in an offside position, but...
Well, the pictures we have here in the commentary position inside Old Trafford, they have not got the lines drawn on the screen. And I agree with you, Chris. I mean, with the naked, some of the decisions that we've seen goals disallowed for offside, I have to say, looked a good deal less certain than that was. However, the goal stands. Mason Greenwood has scored in the Champions League, and Manchester United lead RB Leipzig by 1-0.
It was such an easy... Well, he made it look easy, the finish. It wasn't an easy finish, but as someone with a clear mind, a natural finisher we saw last season, what an important player he was for United. And we have to say a well-timed run, don't we? But still had work to do and just passed it into the far corner.
Free kick to Manchester United, and Kunku was picked up for a foul on Fred, who actually dragged the ball away from him. And Kunku protested extremely loudly, actually. We could hear him from here. We're just seeing, actually, a review now with the blue line, and a dotted line has been drawn up from the blue line on the pitch, and the word onside is written on the screen. Poulsen, RB Leipzig trying to respond. Forsberg now plays it to Olmo, right side of the box. Shot from him, and De Gea, it was hit with some force, but De Gea got a good sight of it. It was just up to his left, and he pushed it up and around the post for a goal kick, a corner.
Yeah, it's a really smart
Kunku, it was with the shot.
Piece of goalkeeping from De Gea. He's gone for power, right-hand side of the box. And Kunku, he smashes it, and it's a decent save. Pushes it round the post, and a chance for RB Leipzig to load the box. Upamecano forward.
Here's the corner then. RB Leipzig's first. Manchester United leading by 1-0. Deep one, aiming for Upamecano, and it bounces at the far post. Halstenberg tried to get there. It was just nicked away from him, though. Very well, and importantly too, by Nemanja Matic, who then runs it towards the halfway line with Halstenberg chasing him and fouling him, and it's a free kick to United halfway inside their own half. Maguire bringing it towards the halfway line, and then checks to give it to Shaw to his left. So goals in most of the Championship games tonight. In the 7 o'clock kickoff, Preston 0, Millwall 1 remains the score. Still Birmingham 1, Huddersfield 0, Derby 1, Cardiff City 0, Luton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Forsberg for RB Leipzig just outside the area, turning to his left. Angelino's ball across. That's cleared away by Matic. Campbell with the shot. That's blocked on the edge of the area. 2 United players were there, and it bounces back towards the halfway line. Still Rotherham 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0, which means there's one match without a goal so far in the Championship. And Chris Wise is watching it.
Easy me, it's still 0-0 between Bournemouth and Bristol City. 4 minutes of the first half to play. Lively, even though it is goalless. Bristol City with the better chances, the best of them. The impressive Tyreek Backinson flashing the shot across goal, touched behind by Begovic. 4 minutes of the first half to go. Bournemouth 0, Bristol City 0.
If you've just switched on to us on 5 Live tonight, Chelsea were 4-0 winners earlier in Russia. And we will hopefully hear from Frank Lampard via his video conference a little later on. Either on 5 Live or on the Football Daily podcast that you'll be able to search for and listen to and download via BBC Sounds in the morning. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be on there as well, I'm sure. 5 Live and BBC Radio Manchester here at Old Trafford. Angelino takes a throw on the left-hand side. Forsberg with his bobbing blonde hair, the Swedish World Cup player, comes back to Upamecano, who's going to try a shot from best part of 30 yards. But it sails away, probably 10, 15 yards wide and behind.
Yeah, shot well wide. Very optimistic, wasn't it? We're seeing a bit of a response from RB Leipzig, though, making a few passes, pushing United back. United defending the edge of their box very well, very organised and disciplined. United, and you think the fact that they've taken the lead, this should suit them. Got that pace up top, haven't they? Martial and Greenwood making runs in behind.
Here's Donny van der Beek. Now just leaves the ball on the far side. Martial back into Pogba, who was rather shrugged off it by Dani Olmo, and then Dani Olmo runs into Shaw, who was backpedaling, puts his hands up in the air as he does so.
It's to be a free kick.
But it's not.
He gets caught by Pogba, and then he does run into Shaw. The initial foul from Pogba should have been awarded.
Dinamo Kiev have taken the lead in Hungary against Ferencváros. That's in the Juventus-Barcelona group. Barcelona winning 1-0. As the ball's played forward by Konate, but it bounces back. Upamecano now has to come across and head it safely down for Halstenberg. And Halstenberg low and forward towards Poulsen. It bounces off Matic. Oh, and then Wan-Bissaka put in the challenge on Angelino, who went spiralling away across the surface, twisting, rolling, wanted the free kick. It's not given. And
he won the ball, didn't he? And then it was the follow-through. He caught Angelino. Fair play to Angelino. Up, back on his feet. I think Nagelsmann was overly happy about the challenge. I think the issue RB Leipzig have had, John, is they haven't got that pace, that threat in behind, and the United centre-halves have strolled through this evening so far. Everything in front of them, been nice and compact in midfield. And other than the save De Gea made, which was from an angle and the shot came in, United have defended very, very well.
Yes, they do look, on what we've seen so far, almost half an hour, as though they do miss a Timo Werner figure, perhaps.
They haven't missed him so far this evening, have they?
United with the ball inside their own half. Maguire just plays it across the back line to Lindelof, who finds Poulsen closing him down, gives it to Wan-Bissaka, up towards Greenwood, the goal scorer, and then back to Fred. Greenwood returning to the starting lineup tonight and getting on the score sheet with that goal that was ruled onside by VAR. It was a very tight call. We're in the 21st minute, and so Manchester United lead by 1-0. I would say that's his finest moment, Mason Greenwood, since the Reykjavik affair. He returned as a substitute against Chelsea here on Saturday night, missed the 2 matches before that. Poulsen is fouled by Lindelof. It's a free kick to Leipzig, and now Upamecano will walk the ball forward into the centre circle and give it out towards the far side. Back it comes more centrally. Henriks playing it back. Henriks looking for it again, and he's found by Upamecano. Henriks now to Nkunku on the right-hand side, but Maguire gets there first, is able to get a foot in and deflect it out of play for a throw-in. Almost just about level with the edge of the Manchester United penalty area in front of the Stretford end. Feels like the temperature is dipping inside Old Trafford. It's quite a chill in the air now. The ball is played infield towards Forsberg. Maguire in strong with a challenge, and then Pogba is picked up for a foul. I think it's the assistant who's flagged for that as well, and Pogba disagrees. His run actually took him right out there next to the assistant, and Pogba is standing in front of that assistant and clearly querying the decision, and he actually stops as he walks away and looks over his shoulder as well.
It's silly from Pogba having a word with the official on the far side. Doesn't want to risk a booking. I think it is a foul. Dani Olmo, he just catches him in the face with his back of his left hand and pulls him down.
Just put his hand on his shoulder,
yeah.
Caught him in the, sort of half caught him in the face,
Yeah,
put his hand on his shoulder.
You might say soft free kick, but I can see why it was awarded. And can RB Leipzig create something from a set piece?
Good chance with the set piece on the right. Here it is. Deep delivery of the back post up on Upamecano, but he was beaten in the air to it. and the referee says Upamecano was fouling as he challenged for it, and so it is a free kick for Manchester United inside their own penalty area.
As well, Wan-Bissaka, and I know there's criticism, or there has been criticism of him in an attacking sense, doesn't do enough. His final ball at times isn't good enough, but defensively I think he does such a good job for United.
Half-time whistles beginning to go in the matches in the Championship as Poulsen plays it square. Dani Olmo and Kunku. This is just outside the penalty area, having a good spell, RB Leipzig. Ball played in deep. Angelino with a shot, flicks up in the air off Wan-Bissaka. And De Gea is able to move quickly to his right and catches as it drops out of the sky. Nottingham Forest are down to 10 men. They're 1-0 down at Kenilworth Road. And Nicholas Ayanu has been sent off. So Forest down to 10 men. Birmingham 1, Huddersfield 0 at half-time. Derby 1, Cardiff City 0. There's also a half-time score as Wan-Bissaka slides in on Upamecano, and the ball bounces back onto the Leipzig man and behind for a Manchester United goal kick. And half-time in the Bournemouth-Bristol City game, Chris Wise.
In the pouring rain at the Vitality Stadium, 0-0. Good game between 6th place Bournemouth and 4th place Bristol City. Bournemouth with a free kick through Junior Stanislas, their best chance of the half, which was whipped wide of the post. Semenyo, Backinson, Jeju, all with opportunities for Bristol City, but they haven't found a way through. 0-0.
Thank you, Chris. Pogba with the ball on the left-hand side. Leipzig players all around him, plays it infield, and then the referee brings it back for an earlier foul and a free kick to Manchester United inside their own half. So far so good, Chris, for Manchester United?
Yeah, I think so. You know, interesting seeing all the changes that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made. And questions, would they work, would they be slick? You know, risky leaving out the likes of Fernandes and Rashford, players who have such an influence on this United team, but you know, good to see other players get an opportunity, and Greenwood taking his chance exceptionally well.
Matic, as the challenge came in on him from Forsberg, he drove away from him, and I think the referee has seen him just use an arm to catch Forsberg in the face, and it's a yellow card for Matic for that.
Yeah, this one where Matic is saying to the referee, well, I'm a big guy, I'm just defending. I think he's desperately unlucky to get booked for that. You know, you feel a player running behind, you're entitled to keep him off you. That's all Matic was doing in that situation. That's extremely harsh.
Here's Greenwood chasing the ball, but it bounces for Upamecano, who's able to play it back to Gulacsi. What are we calling this United system, Chris, as Poulsen wins a free kick against Lindelof just inside their own half? Is it a diamond, or are you saying 4-2-3-1?
I think that they've been quite fluid in the way that they've played. You can see, I think at times it's a diamond, and then they shuffle across. And
I must say, I think it is more of a diamond, isn't it?
Some and some, I think.
Ball out of play for a throw into RB Leipzig. Half-time at Kenilworth Road. Luton leading Nottingham Forest by 1-0. Forest down to 10 men. So a throw-in is taken now. Here's Benjamin Henrichs back to the halfway line. Upamecano, one of the rising stars of European football, really caught the eye last season in Leipzig's run to the Champions League semi-final. That was the last time Julian Nagelsmann's team lost a match. Luke Shaw is fouled by Nkunku. It's a free kick to Manchester United in their own left-back position.
You see, and as the ball was popped out to the right-hand side there, you'd say United were more of a 4-2-3-1. So I mean, they just shows that they are fluid. They're switched on, they're adaptable, which is what they need to be.
Well, third different formation in 3 matches for Manchester United as the ball's played back to De Gea. United with it deep inside their own territory. So we'll get another update from Conor McNamara, who's watching what's happening over in Turin.
10 minutes to go to half-time. It's been a fantastic first half. So much action. Griezmann's hit the woodwork. Ousmane Dembele with a brilliant goal after an individual run. Messi found him with a crossfield ball. He did get a deflection at the end. Morata's had a goal disallowed down the other end. And Barcelona have had two other really good chances. Messi pulled a shot wide. Dembele drew out the goalkeeper and Griezmann couldn't pull the trigger. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1.
And Sheffield Wednesday are now down to 10 men in that South Yorkshire derby. Tom Lees has been sent off. So Rotherham winning 1-0 and Sheffield Wednesday with 10 men. Wan-Bissaka can't keep the ball in halfway inside his own half, so it's a throw in to Leipzig. Angelino rather totters down the side of the pitch where it falls away to pick up one of the balls on the cones, and then Upamecano gives it to Henriks on the right hand side. Henriks infield, Dani Olmo with the shot, but that's blocked by either Maguire or Lindelof. The two of them were right next to one another, and Van der Beek plays it back to Matic, who lifts it away to the halfway line. And Rotherham have scored from the resulting penalty after Lees was sent off. Daniel Barlaser has made it 2-0 to Rotherham. RB Leipzig. Angelino going back into his own half, and Halstenberg will play it all the way back to Gulacsi.
Hasn't had too many touches, has he, Donny van der Beek? And on the periphery of the game so far.
Yeah, remember famous goals that he scored for Ajax the season before last against Juventus, that excellent goal against Tottenham in the first leg of the unforgettable semi-final. Here's Poulsen, who turns in a deep position and sets off towards the penalty area, uses Angelino, and then Forsberg plays it back to Halstenberg.
It's all very pretty, John, isn't it? But with no punch at the moment from RB Leipzig.
A little bit like Julian Nagelsmann's outfit. Here's Konate, plays it to the right-hand side. Henriks up towards Nkunku, who's playing as the forward player on the right-hand side on Nkunku. Now the ball lifted high towards the left side of the penalty area. Angelino volleys it through, took a deflection, and that took the pace off it, and it bounced as well favourably for David De Gea, who was able to clutch the ball securely. Manchester United leading by 1-0. Mason Greenwood, the goal scorer, almost halfway through the first half when he scored it. Created really nicely by Pogba, wasn't it? You said at the time, Chris, but his ball through, perfectly measured, left side of the area. And a very good finish from the angle across goalkeeper Gulacsi into the far corner.
Yeah, it is the position Paul Pogba's playing. Is that where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to get the most out of him?
Well, is it?
He certainly looked bright this evening, hasn't he? Looked a threat. Carried the ball well. Maybe we'll feel he doesn't have that real defensive responsibility with Matic and Fred. More defensive-minded players behind him.
Poulsen for Leipzig, but Fred was there to put in the challenge, and then Van der Beek is judged to have fouled Campbell. Referee indicating that he saw a tug there. Free kick, Leipzig take it, and then back to Upamecano in the centre circle. He lifts a high pass out towards the far side. It's taken down by Henriks. Ball up to Nkunku. Henriks then rolls it centrally. Dani Olmo, but his pass is rather astray. Poulsen can't get there, even though he was at full extension, and Wan-Bissaka was able to clear the ball away downfield. We're into the last 5 minutes of the first half here at a chilly Old Trafford. It's dry for the time being. Ball played by Upamecano towards the edge of the penalty area. Down goes Nkunku, no free kick, and the ball's at the feet of David De Gea. I've been in buildings this evening at Old Trafford that I've never been in before. Slightly different setup for the Champions League. I was intrigued. I've always wondered what they were, and now I got a chance to go inside them and see what went on in there. Here's Van der Beek, plays it infield. Fred, but that's beyond Greenwood. And now Halstenberg passes it forward. Dani Olmo looks to his right, the Spanish international. Henriks arrives, but he goes back to Konate nearer the halfway line. Konate then just takes a couple of big strides, uses Henriks, and then that's a poor ball in field. Martial was able to dance in, take the ball back, claims he was fouled, but he was fouled, and it's a free kick to Manchester United, 10 yards inside their own half.
United have been extremely comfortable, haven't they? RB Leipzig not moving the ball quickly enough. They're trying to probe, but those extra touches in the middle of the park, and United shuffling across, and they've really coped extremely well with the RB Leipzig forward line. Harry Maguire and Lindelof have barely been tested. You think, John, that this suits United, doesn't it? The likes of Martial and Greenwood, the pace they have up top, one ball in behind, albeit Upamecano, no slouch, the quickest player in the Bundesliga this season, John.
Is that right?
Yeah, him and Erling Haaland.
You wouldn't have
35 kilometres an hour.
35 kilometres an hour, and how does that shape up?
Quick.
What was the fastest you were at your...
I was flying sort of 19 and a half, I think, in my pomp, yeah.
Free kick to Manchester United on the left-hand side. Just a short stride in from the left touch line.
I think I may have broken up into the 20s. Yeah, when I was at Oxford United, the Manor Ground, down the hill. Slope, yeah.
Yeah. Shaw to take the free kick for Manchester United, who lead by 1-0. Here it is, high one towards the penalty spot. It's over Maguire, and the referee spotted a foul, I think, on Poulsen, who ends up on his backside, and it's a free kick to Leipzig. Club Brugge have equalised against Lazio. That's 1-1. Dinamo Kiev now 2-0 up in Hungary against Ferencváros. Could have been Celtic, Chris.
Oh, what a chance they missed.
Would have been in the group with Juventus and Barcelona. But Ferencváros 2-0 down. Rotherham United now 3-0 up on Sheffield Wednesday. Ball forward for Leipzig. Forsberg gives it to Angelino, is pushed well up forward. Wan-Bissaka puts the challenge in. Angelino took his time to go down there. The ball had already gone from Wan-Bissaka's challenge.
He's brilliant, John, in those situations.
He is. As the ball is played in from the right-hand side by Henriks, but it's blocked away for a corner to Leipzig as the half draws to a close. Leipzig putting pressure on Manchester United. Jamie Lindsay scored that third goal for Rotherham, and Jed Wallace has made it 2-0 to Millwall with a penalty at Preston. Preston 0, Millwall 2. So United, we are now in the 45th minute, last minute of the first half. Added time to come. United have got to defend this corner. Ball's going to be played in from over there on the right flank. It's played in towards the edge of the box. Angelino controls it, scoops it into the box. A Leipzig player has gone down inside the penalty area, in amongst a crowd of United players, but the ball just bounces through for a goal kick.
Yes, Upamecano. Pogba has to be careful, I tell you. There's a little shove in the back there. The ball's nowhere near Upamecano, but off the training ground, that one. Ball getting blocks on, and the ball goes to Angelino just outside the box, and he's trying to help the ball in to the far post from the left-hand side of the area, but gets that one horribly wrong. But I think you've just seen the shot as well, John. Well,
there was a great angle we've just shown there. Pogba, I think it was Konate, wasn't it, who was shoved over, which and that's a shove on the opposing player inside your own penalty area.
It's a silly thing to do, isn't it?
On another day, you would think that VAR might have said...
Well, yeah, the officials may have gone and popped in and put the kettle on for half-time, gone early.
Well, we've got Slovenian officials inside Old Trafford here tonight. The VAR is a Spaniard, Jose Maria Sanchez, and his assistant is a Dutchman, Bas Nijhuis. But they've been kind to Manchester United in the first half with a decision like that, and also the offside going in Manchester United's favour, although there's no being kind about it. They will say that offside is a matter of science, and everyone follows the science at the moment. Fred plays the ball to the far side, and then it comes back to Pogba, tall, black gloves on. Martial also with his gloves on. Now Shaw wins a throw-in off Henriks. And there's the half-time whistle. 1 minute of added time. Manchester United leading against the Bundesliga lead us here at Old Trafford at the break, and there's a clattering of plastic seats as all of those substitutes get up and head back towards the dressing rooms. So Manchester United with their noses in front. Chris Sutton?
Yeah, I think United have been really solid this half, and it was a wonderful goal. It was, questionable whether Mason Greenwood was offside, but a good run in between the RB Leipzig centre-halves. Good play from Pogba on the left-hand side. Perfectly weighted pass. He still had work to do, did Greenwood, and passed that into the far corner. Past Galaxy in the RB Leipzig goal. And I think United have just about deserved it, John.
So half-time here at Old Trafford. Mason Greenwood's goal, the difference. Manchester United 1, RB Leipzig 0.
It's his 6th goal in major European competitions as a teenager, Mason Greenwood, the joint most of any Englishman alongside teammate Marcus Rashford. I mean, even when they did VAR on it, Chris, he looked like his boot was offside, but they tell us they, do it scientifically, as you've been saying, and so on and so forth. So we have to take it.
The science. Got to trust the science.
We have to take it.
Got to trust the technology, like you with your technology.
Well, my technology's been fine this evening. Don't curse it now by pointing that out.
Sound good this evening.
What a finish! What a finish.
It's a brilliant finish, and the evidence of last season. What did we see from Mason Greenwood? Either foot. He knew where the back of the net was. I mean, it was seamless. It was a really good play from Pogba. I think you called it. That he'd played some of his best football out on the left-hand side. Good driving run, weight of pass, and, Greenwood, natural finish, a wonderful finish. And it's a bit of an eye-opener, the fact that he started the game ahead of Marcus Rashford. But obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had seen enough through training to throw him in tonight, and his finish has been the difference.
Second half on the way here on 5 Live with John and Chris. Manchester United lead RB Leipzig by a 0-0. Earlier on in the same group, Paris Saint-Germain won 2-0 Başakşehir. Chelsea 4, Krasnodar 0 in Russia. Krasnodar 0, Chelsea 4 in the other early game. Conor McNamara is across all the 8 o'clock kickoffs, and in particular the game between Juventus and Barcelona.
Yeah, half-time, it's been a bit of sparkling opening 45 minutes. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1. Barcelona started with real intent. Griezmann hit the woodwork inside 2 minutes. And then the opening goal, scored by Ousmane Dembele. He was assisted by a rather vicious deflection, but this was a goal to savour. Messi started it off. Huge cross-field ball that gave Dembele the room to attack the penalty area. Good run to get into the shooting position, and then helped by that deflection. Almost immediately, Juventus thought they were back on level terms. Alvaro Romato brushed past the goalkeeper, got the ball into the back of the net, but VAR had a look at it, and he's unlucky here. It glances his arm on the way through. The goal is disallowed. Barcelona had a few other chances. Messi, who's combining well with Griezmann tonight. They don't always play well together, but they found each other several occasions this evening. He put a shot wide after a back heel from Griezmann, and Dembele at one stage drew the goalkeeper out of his area, pulled it back for Griezmann, and Griezmann couldn't pull the trigger. So Barca, who scored 5 last week against Ferencváros, tonight lead in Turin. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1 at half-time.
Thank you very much, Conor. In the other game in that group, which is Ferencváros against Dinamo Kiev, and it's Ferencváros 0, Dinamo Kiev 2. The other game in Group E, in Chelsea's group, all square at half-time between Sevilla and Rennes. In Group F, Club Brugge 1, Lazio 1. And Borussia Dortmund 0, Zenit 0 at half-time. In the Championship, they're into injury time in the second half at Deepdale. Millwall look like they're going to get all 3 points in that game. Preston 0, Millwall 2. The second half's just starting in all the other games. Birmingham lead Huddersfield by 1-0. Goalless between Bournemouth and Bristol City. Derby lead Cardiff 1-0. Nottingham Forest are down to 10 men and they trail at Kenilworth Road. Luton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Sheffield Wednesday are also down to 10 in a South Yorkshire derby, and they have had a miserable first half because they trail Rotherham by 3-0. Jamie Lindsay has got 2 of those goals. It looks like Sheffield Wednesday will be staying bottom of the Championship this evening. You're up to date with all the football. 9 minutes to 9. This is 5 Live. Rob Schofield has your news.
on digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has announced a new national lockdown from Friday. In a televised address, he said none of the measures taken so far had succeeded in curbing a second wave of coronavirus, adding its speed had caught the whole of Europe by surprise. Without further restrictions, he said the country's hospitals would be overwhelmed, schools and factories will stay open, but people will need to fill out an official form to justify leaving home for work, essential shopping or exercise. Germany has announced tighter restrictions in an attempt to stem the rapid spread of infection there. A partial lockdown will close bars and restaurants for most of November. The UK's former chief scientific advisor Sir Mark Wilmot has predicted there could be 500 deaths a day in this country by the end of November. The whole county of Nottinghamshire will move into England's highest level of coronavirus restrictions, Tier 3, from midnight on Friday.
Hear the best of 5 Live Sport on BBC Sounds. Rugby Union Weekly.
If I can be part of a squad that is the first extra chief squad to win the Heineken Cup, yeah, I'll put my cowboy hat on and walk off into the sunset. I'll be pretty happy with.
Bringing you special guests and the inside track on the important issues in the game.
Alapati Leo just wouldn't let me go. I was trying to go to bed, but him and Chris Louis had me tied up.
Literally?
Literally? Not literally.
I played a long time ago with it going. Who goes 10 years into a media career and I'm still playing?
Rugby Union Weekly, available now on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
Manchester United 1, RB Leipzig 0, back for the second half shortly. The second half has begun in the Championship. Chris Wise watching Bournemouth, Bristol City.
You might be able to hear that rain, Mark, that's just arrived again at the Vitality Stadium, and in waves as well. It is bucketing down in Dorset. 6 minutes into the second half, it's still Bournemouth 0, Bristol City 0. There's actually a really good tempo to this game, which you probably expect really from two teams in the top 6. And it's worth noting as well that if we have a winner tonight, they will go into the top 2 along with Reading. Bristol City have had the better chances in that first half. The best of them really for Tyreek Backinson, who really impressed me in that first 45 minutes. A shot across goal, which Asmir Begovic had to get a hand to flick it away, the Bournemouth goalkeeper. I think Jason Tindall will want a bit more from his team in the second half, particularly in the fact that they are, of course, at home tonight, and Bristol City have got a real raft of injury problems at the moment too. 7 minutes played in this second half in the pouring rain. Bournemouth 0, Bristol City 0.
As we mentioned earlier, Chelsea picked up all 3 points in the Champions League with a 4-0 win over Krasnodar. Frank Lampard afterwards was quick to praise his side.
I'm very pleased with the performance tonight of Rudiger and Kurt Zouma. They can take credit for the clean sheet amongst other players. I didn't have doubts over Tony. His training and professionalism has been very clear from the beginning since I've been here, and certainly in recent weeks. And I was very pleased with his concentration levels, the whole back 4, back 5 of Mendy as well. Concentration levels to have a real desire to keep a clean sheet. Going forward, we need more than 2 centre-backs. We have Thiago Silva at home, we have Tomori and Christensen in the squad. It's not easy to keep 5 centre-backs happy, but we need the levels of competition that we saw on the pitch today to keep moving forward.
John Southall watching this one for us. A statement win, would you say, for Chelsea?
Well, I think it's an important win, especially after drawing the first game. I think another clean sheet's pretty important for them as well. I mean, it's 3 clean sheets on the trot now, and few people would have said that a few weeks ago. I mean, they played okay tonight. At the beginning of the second half, they looked a bit shaky, but then moved up a few gears. So I think it is an important win. And I think also Chelsea fans would have been pleased to see Antonio Rudiger back in the side. We heard Frank Lampard talking about him there. It was generally a pretty assured performance from him. His first appearance for Chelsea since the cup final on the 1st of August. I mean, it's been a really strange situation why he hasn't been playing. I think fans probably see him as the next best to Thiago Silva. He played all 5 so far of Germany's games this season, but hasn't sometimes been able to get on the bench. The 2 of them, Rudiger and Lampard, had talks over the last week, and it seems that he is now back in the fold. And as we heard from Frank Lampard there, he was pretty pleased with his performance.
Yeah, but as Lampard pointed out, he's got 5 centre-halves to try and keep happy.
Yeah, that is the problem, isn't it? I think he, in an ideal world, he'd have wanted to offload 1 or 2, though one of them certainly in the transfer window before the end of it in October. I think Tomori almost went. I think Rudiger almost went as well, but he's ended up with all 5 of them, and you cannot keep all of them happy.
John, thank you very much. Second half of Manchester United RB Leipzig on the way. Let's just switch to Rugby League, though, before we go back to Old Trafford. A meeting of Super League clubs has been arranged to discuss options on how the current season will reach a conclusion and the future of Toronto Wolfpack. Let's talk to our Rugby League correspondent, Dave Woods. What are they looking at as regards how to end the season then, Dave?
Well, the meeting we believe is going to take place on Monday. At the moment, they've got a system in place where there's a full fixture list card, which is seeing some teams play 2-3 times a week, which is in some cases intolerable. What they're considering, or what is being considered, is going straight to the playoffs, going straight to a playoff system, whether that be top 5 or top 6. Now, my understanding is it's very unlikely that they're going to change things at this stage, which means they'll stay with what they have at the moment, which means that when we reach the top 4 2 weeks into November, that will when the playoffs will start. Whoever in the top 4 then, they'll play each other in semi-finals on the 19th and the 20th of November, and then the grand final on the 27th. That's the situation that's in place now. I think that's what they will stay with. The problem with now saying, right, let's go to playoffs next week is that if any club gets hit with COVID, and we've seen a couple of teams today pulling out of matches this weekend, if anyone gets hit with COVID, then how does that leave the competition? Do they just have they lost their way in the competition there? Does the integrity of the playoffs diminish because a side can't play in a weekend when it's a knockout game? So I think they'll stay with what they've got, which is not exactly ideal, but it's not an ideal situation we're in.
No, and I suppose earlier this season they did preempt the chaos that would come by teams having to postpone because of COVID when they came up with their win percentage as a way of settling the league table rather than points, because teams are going to be playing a different number of games.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very unlikely that everyone will play the requisite number of matches. So what they said is that, right, you've got to reach 15 games, but once you've reached 15 games, we'll then look into the percentages, and the teams with the best percentages will be the teams that finish in the top 4. Remember, no relegation. That's been scrapped this year. It's just all about the top 4. The problem at the moment with that is that Catalan are struggling to reach 15 games because I think they've got 12 on the board at the moment, so they need another 3. They're due to play Salford on Monday as one of those games, but Salford are one of the clubs today who've pulled out, not just because of COVID, but because of the injuries. They only have 13 fit players, they say. So their match against Warrington has been awarded to Warrington by 24 points to 0, and Warrington get the percentages for that game, which adds to the inequity of the situation at the moment. But you know, as I said, teams are being asked to play 2-3 times a week, and in terms of the pressure that's putting on players in what is a brutal game is very, very hard.
James Graham has announced he'll retire at the end of the season, but you know that could be March 2022 at this rate, couldn't it? Whenever.
It could be. I don't think that's come as any great surprise. 34 years of age. What a fantastic career. First with St Helens, and then of course in Australia with the Bulldogs and the Dragons. He's come back to St Helens as a swan song. I think we all expected that this would be his last year. Whether he's playing for Saints in a grand final, that would be the fairy tale finish. But a lot will happen between now and November 28th, I'm sure.
And just quickly, Toronto?
Decision again on them on Monday, or at least we're expecting that. They will make a presentation. Their new owner will make a presentation himself personally to all the Super League clubs. Again, my understanding is that it's split at the moment. Some want them back, some don't want them back. So we'll know on Monday whether he's managed to persuade them with the new figures that they're putting forward, the new presentation that they're putting forward.
Thank you very much, Dave. The final whistle has gone at Deepdale. It's finished Preston 0, Millwall 2 during the second half from Old Trafford. If you hit the red button or go on the iPlayer or the BBC Sport app, then you can find 5 Live final score, and you'll get the video printer for all the other Championship games and Champions League games this evening, whilst listening to John Murray and Chris Sutton at Old Trafford. And in many ways, Chris, United just do a little bit more of the same, do they?
Yeah, I think so. They don't have to force it. I mean, they'd like another goal. I think that, they're really impressed with the way they've defended. I have to say, I've been disappointed. I've hyped up RB Leipzig myself before the game, but they haven't offered much. And I think the main thing from United's point of view now is to see this game through, get the results, because at the start of this group you think, you know, United are in big trouble, try and get out of this and qualify, but that will be a perfect start, you know, if they PSG away and can beat Leipzig here at home this evening, and also get the first home win of the season under the belt.
Team's back out. John?
Yep, Manchester United's players are just going through a little routine in front of us on the touchline. Donny van de Beek's the last to join in. He's got a big smile on his face as he runs past Julian Nagelsmann, actually. I don't know whether the two of them just had a little joke together. RB Leipzig are ready for the start of the match. United now are getting themselves into position. Yeah, competitive group this. Paris Saint-Germain, the French champions, Champions League runners-up last season. The Turkish champions, Istanbul, Başakşehir. PSG won their match earlier this evening, 2-0 in Turkey. And here we have the semi-finalists from last season, the Bundesliga leaders, against Manchester United, 3 times European champions. And it's United who lead 1-0 with the second half about to get underway. Mason Greenwood's first half goal. United with De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw are the back four, as Donny van de Beek gets the first touch of the second half. And then, whether it's a diamond, as it is occasionally in midfield, or 4-2-3-1, they have Matic, Pogba, Fred, Van der Beek, and then Martial and goal scorer Greenwood. And RB Leipzig with Peter Gulacsi, their captain and goalkeeper. Konate, Upamecano and Halstenberg, the 3 central defenders. Henriks on the right, Angelino on the left, Campbell and Dani Olmo in the middle, and then the front line of Nkunku on the right, Forsberg on the left and Poulsen through the middle. Paul Pogba is upended by Henriks, who's very smartly shown a yellow card by referee Matej Zug of Slovenia, and it's a free kick to Manchester United.
Very clever from Paul Pogba, and the United left-hand touchline ball slid into him. He just feels Henriks on his back and rolls him, and shirt heavily tugged. He goes down, and Henriks under a little bit of pressure now. I think it's noticeable, certainly with Leipzig in this second half, maybe a change of shape, John, onto more of a back four. Campbell sitting in front alongside Dani Olmo. So they're more of a 4-2-3-1, I think, this half.
Throwing to Manchester United on the halfway line. Shaw to take it. Over the top of Matic. And then Upamecano slides into position, takes the ball away. And it's still going. Upamecano out towards the left-hand side. And then crosses right-footed to the edge of the area. And Harry Maguire, another central defender who likes to get forward when he can, is able to stoop forward and head it away back to the halfway line. Kevin Campbell is in possession inside his own half, plays it back to the former Liverpool goalkeeper Gulacsi. Never actually played for Liverpool. He was there when Pepe Reina was the first choice, undisputed. Poulsen now crossing from the left-hand side straight into Maguire. Wan-Bissaka is able to get in there first, give it to Fred. Now Van der Beek has a look over his shoulder, knew that there was a man coming, but as he played it across, Konate was able to step forward and take possession.
How good was that, John? Dani Olmo, 2 touches to release Poulsen down that left-hand side. There's a poor cross from Poulsen.
Yep. But Manchester United bring it forward again. Chris Sutton with us here on 5 Live and BBC Radio in Manchester as well. Good to have you with us this evening. And the ball is out of play for a throw-in that Henriks will take back into his own half to Konate. And now where Upamecano gets the ball at his feet again. And this time goes for the long pass to Angelino on the left-hand side. Forsberg is in between Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka. Poulsen plays it across, a flick from Dani Olmo, now just outside the area. And Nkunku looks for the arrival of Henriks, but Shaw goes to ground inside the penalty area and hooks the ball out of play for a throw to Leipzig down the right-hand side.
Lovely touch from Olmo. Again, we saw very little of him in the first half, but start of this second half, he looks livelier. RB Leipzig look like they have a point to prove. All very, very flat, not incisive, not crisp in the first half. There have been a few words at half-time, but they certainly look like they've come out with a bit more intensity in this second half.
Chris Sutton, Champions League player with Celtic and indeed Blackburn Rovers, as Manchester United with Pogba played up towards Martial. The ball bounces out of play. There's some dispute over whether that should have been a Manchester United throw or not. I think Martial knew it wasn't, and it is given Leipzig's way. Henrichs to take the throw with the ball in his right palm, then throws it infield. Poulsen is challenged, the ball bounces back to Lindelof, who picks out goalscorer Greenwood on the far side. Mason Greenwood, 19 earlier this month. But United go back into the defensive line. Lindelof to Maguire. Maguire looking forward, and then Pogba back to Lindelof again. We're on the red button tonight. Busy night of football, Champions League and the Championship. So red button on your television, or click on 5 Live final score with all of the graphics and the video printer. Maguire just takes the ball with his right orange boot, and then finds Shaw, who plays it back into the middle of the half to Lindelof. Slightly stooped Lindelof as he looks forward, and then Fred is able to pass it to the right hand side. Wan-Bissaka, and now Van der Beek plays it for the run of Wan-Bissaka, and
get off
the ball is powerfully brought forward by Upamecano again, who dispossessed him but then couldn't find the pass and is actually out of position, and Manchester United look to come forward. Shaw's little ball infield towards Pogba. Pogba then through to Martial, left side of the penalty area. He drags it back, but a sliding interception. The ball's still free in the area. Appeals that it might have struck the arm of Konate, who was the player who slid in. Play continues though. Greenwood, double step over, Ronaldo style, then shoots goalwards, straight at goalkeeper Gulacci, was able to block it away. Fred goes for a shot, unconvincing. Actually hits Van der Beek inside the area. He shot off balance, took a deflection as it was going wide anyway, and it's a corner to Manchester United. That was harem-scarum stuff.
Yes, it was. Do you know what, though? I think Anthony Martial should have got his shot off. Drove into the box, left-hand side, sort of 8 yards out, and should have fired that in. Ooh. Calls for a handball. I tell you what, this you'd think would be looked at.
The only thing is that it's Konate who collided with Angelino, and his arm was on the ground. It was extended away from his body, but it was supporting his body, which is something they look for.
That would be harsh. It
would be very harsh. It's a corner to Manchester United. Shaw with the outswing out, but that's headed away by Poulsen. Comes out for Fred. He was one of the players who had a shot in the midst of all of that. Shaw then plays it in. It's over the top of Martial, who's looking to glance it on, and actually his touch, whether it was glance or not, fooled everyone and took it between everyone and out of play in the end for a throw to Leipzig.
Actually a chance there. Good ball in. Martial, what, 8-9 yards out, level with the near post, misses his header completely, gets it all wrong. Konate dawdling behind him.
So you wouldn't believe that ball was able to find a way through 4 Manchester United players without any of them getting a touch. Free kick to Leipzig. A little foul on Dani Olmo, who's just stretching his left leg, and there's another player down actually on the far side. Poulsen, I think it is, who's taken a knock, and referee just comes over and has a look to see if he's okay. Let me just run you through the latest scores in the Championship while he's getting to his feet. So we know that Millwall have won 2-0 at Preston. Preston still haven't won a point at home this season. It is Birmingham 1, Huddersfield Town 0. These all latest scores. Bournemouth 0, Bristol City 0. Derby County winning 1-0 against Cardiff City. Luton Town 1-0 up on Nottingham Forest, who are down to 10 men. And Rotherham 3-0 up on Sheffield Wednesday, who are also playing with 10 men. And the latest scores in the Champions League. Borussia Dortmund 0, Zenit St. Petersburg 0, Club Brugge 1, Lazio 1, Ferencvaros 0, Dinamo Kiev 2. Barcelona winning 1-0 in Turin against Juventus. Sevilla 0, Rennes 0 in Chelsea's group. Earlier Chelsea 4-0 winners in Russia against Krasnodar. Here come Leipzig with Nkunku. Maguire only half cleared there. He was fortunate that it fell to a teammate and United were able to clear. And then a foul by Campbell on Martial, who is almost apoplectic. He has the body language, Kevin Campbell, of a man who feels that things have not gone his way tonight, and it's accentuated by that bobbing ponytail on the back of his head whenever he gets agitated.
Yeah, it's harsh one there, wasn't it? He's just doing his job, got tight to Martial, made it difficult as the ball went into him.
Wan-Bissaka tearing away down the right-hand side for Manchester United, gives it back to Greenwood, who then goes back towards Fred. I think Nottingham Forest might have got an equaliser. They have through Ryan Yates. So the 10 men of Nottingham Forest 1-1 at Kenilworth Road. United lose possession on the edge of the Leipzig box, and Gulacsi will clear left-footed. Lindelof firmly challenged by Forsberg, who comes out with the ball. Leipzig in the almost all-white kit with the red trim. Now Henriks bringing it forward, and then Dani Olmo flicks it up towards the edge of the box, headed away by Wan-Bissaka, and Angelino wins a throw-in off Greenwood. The throw is taken long centrally to Dani Olmo, the Leipzig number 25. Campbell now over there on the far side, under the lights of the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. Dani Olmo plays it square. Now Nkunku to the right-hand side. Henriks. Poulsen's gone down inside the box after colliding with Maguire, and the two of them actually collide again inside the box. The referee ignores it. Campbell now on the right-hand side. Henriks has made a run down towards the corner flag. He's got Luke Shaw very tight on him there. Henriks is right next to the flag. In fact, he touches the flag, holds the flag to hold off Shaw, who prods it out of play for a throw-in.
I feel the one player they've really got to watch, Manchester United, is Dani Olmo. Signs in this second half of him causing United one or two problems. Maguire and Poulsen having words.
Yes. Dani Olmo, former Barcelona youngster, the famous academy, ended up at Dinamo Zagreb, played for them in the Champions League last season before making his move to Leipzig. Free kick to Leipzig here on the right, a little fouled by Pogba and Campbell.
A bit of niggle now, isn't there?
A little bit of niggle. Free kick that is going to be taken by Nkunku, who's suggesting that goal scorer Greenwood's not 10 yards away. Nkunku raises his right arm. Here's the delivery low to the near post. He was after Poulsen, comes off Van de Beek, then it's flick headed across the United box, but cleared away at the back post by Matic. And now Poulsen wins a header on the edge of the penalty area. Konate bounces to Forsberg. Forsberg takes it on, and his cross is blocked by the outstretched leg of Lindelof, and behind for a Leipzig corner, who are putting good pressure on United here, Chris Sutton.
Yes, he did. He just delayed Forsberg. I thought he could have whipped across in earlier. Actually well defended by Lindelof, but here's Leipzig pushing United back now, creating a bit of pressure, but can they create something clear-cut? It hasn't happened so far. United defending well.
Angelino then to take the corner to the near post, where it's headed away. Dani Olmo was put under pressure by Van de Beek, and that forced him to stab it forward and through for a goal kick. You're right, Chris. De Gea made that save shortly after United took the lead from Nkunku in the first half.
Difficult angle as well, difficult to score from there. Comfortable save, and then I think that's been about it, hasn't it?
So United lead by 1-0. Paris Saint-Germain, as I say, 2-0 winners in the earlier match in this group.
I tell you what, he's got to be careful, Henriks, isn't he? He's already been booked.
Fouled Pogba, and that was a little late, wasn't it? The ball had been played away by Pogba.
I tell you,
that's a yellow card.
That should be a second yellow.
Definitely.
He's gotten away with that. It's soft refereeing.
And
really,
he's actually wagging a finger at him, the referee, to Henriks, but that should be a second yellow card. No question.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, and then Campbell is handed off by Van de Beek. You can hear the howls from the Leipzig people. Van de Beek, though, takes it on, gives it to Martial, who couldn't get round Konate. Konate was able to put a foot in and clear the ball into the full-back position. Van de Beek, nice turn from him, good close control from the former Ajax man. And then Henriks puts the challenge in on him to knock it out of play for a throw, 10 yards away from the corner flag. And the referee is just saying to Shaw, just don't take the throw yet, because I've got to deal with Kevin Campbell, who's at it again.
It was a handoff, wasn't it? I have to say, he's rattled. He's showing the referee his face. I think he's quite right.
Well, the referee has listened to what Kevin Campbell has had to say.
Clattered by Van der Beek there, Campbell is.
Yeah. Nice, close stuff from Manchester United. Martial taking it on towards the dead ball line, and then Konate puts the challenge in, bounces off Martial, and it's through for a goal kick to the German club.
Does all right, Konate, doesn't it? It looks like Martial's just away from him. Sticks with him on the byline, and ball eventually goes out of play for a Leipzig goal kick.
1-0 to Manchester United here inside Old Trafford. I wonder what the latest is in the Juventus-Barcelona match tonight in Group G. Conor McNamara.
Still Barcelona 1. Alvaro Morata has had a second equaliser for Juventus ruled out. In the first half, he was adjudged to have handled it while scoring. Now in the second period, the former Chelsea striker adjudged to be offside as the cross came in towards him from Juan Cuadrado. Dembele's goal still separates them. Almost an hour played. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1.
Pogba going for goal here, dropped nicely for him, but he snatched at it. 25 yards given the angle and pulled it well wide of the goal. So still just 1-0 Manchester United. Mentioned the PSG game in case you missed it earlier. Moise Kean on loan from Everton scored both of the PSG goals in their win in Istanbul against Başakşehir.
Marcus Rashford stripped, ready to come on.
Here he is, the man of the moment. We can see his number 10 shirt, and he's just peeling off his tracksuit bottoms about 20 yards down in front of us in the stands, next to his substitute seat. So Rashford about to join the action. Forsberg bringing it forward for Leipzig. Here's Angelino looking for the overlapping run, blocked half away back to Greenwood, who keeps it in play, plays it back to Wan-Bissaka, who hoists it, really lofts it out of play near the halfway line. Don't think we'll see the change just yet, because
McTominay as well stripped.
Oh yeah, McTominay coming on as well. McTominay left out of the starting lineup. Rashford, Bruno Fernandes as well. And you have to think that that's an element of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his coaching staff, just managing the workload that these clubs have this season. Arsenal come here on Sunday. It's one of our many commentaries over the course of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday in the Premier League. More commentary matches than any other broadcaster. And it all starts Friday night with Wolves against Crystal Palace here on 5 Live. Tonight, 5 Live and Radio Manchester, watching Manchester United 1-0 up. Ball played to Martial on the left-hand side. Martial is away from Henriks into the penalty area past Konate, slips it through into the penalty area. Van der Beek slides in with a challenge. There was a covering challenge on him as well, and as he slid, he's claiming he was caught in there, but the referee's having none of that. And actually, the Leipzig player has come off worse there and is still down inside his 6-yard box as they bring it away towards the halfway line. Campbell just has a look and is going to put it out of play, so that it's Halstenberg who received the knock.
Yeah, it was good play from Martial, left-hand side of the box. Last couple of times he's driven the outside. This time he drives inside Konate and he feeds a little ball into Van der Beek. It's just over-hit. And Van der Beek stretching, goes to ground, he gets his right boot to it. Halstenberg on the slide, gets injured in the process. Here come the changes for United.
Yes, already McTominay has replaced Matic, and Greenwood, the goal scorer, is replaced by Marcus Rashford with just over an hour gone. So that was clearly, whenever you say a substitution at this time, it's usually a planned substitution. And
there won't be a change of system. It'll be like for like, won't it? And we'll see RB Leipzig. I think smart from Julian Nagelsmann, taking Henriks off, who of course lucky to still be on the pitch, should have got sent off. Second yellow. And Sabitzer made the difference against Hertha Berlin at the weekend. He just come back after a month out with a hamstring injury. He's an influential player, and they need that spark, don't they, Leipzig?
Yep, Sabitzer, who took over as the captain of the team. Sabitzer scored the penalty, the winning penalty against Hertha Berlin at the weekend. So he is on on the right-hand side for Leipzig. 1-0 Manchester United lead. Here's Poulsen, 25 yards out, but Fred puts in the challenge, just caught him. Free kick, middle of the United half. Ferencváros have got a goal back against Dynamo Kiev, so 2-1 Dynamo Kiev lead. Cardiff City have equalised against Derby. Kiefer Moore and Sevilla are 1-0 up on Rennes in Chelsea's group. Chelsea 4-0 winners earlier. Sevilla, the Europa League winners, 1-0 up on Rennes, or Rennes, as Mark Chapman called them at half-time. Free kick taken short. Sabitzer plays it in there, headed away by Manchester United. Angelino then sends a high one into the penalty area. Poulsen's after it, and then from the angle, Konate with the header. And De Gea got a good sight on it, didn't really get the power on it, Konate, and De Gea was able to push it up and away and over the top of the crossbar. Corner.
Yeah, I don't think he should score from that angle. It's a smart save from De Gea, but that's all it takes at 1-0. One ball into the box, Poulsen gets up well, and then Konate first as the ball pops up in the air. And smart keeping from De Gea. Big right hand, tips it over the bar.
Corner. Sorloth has come on for Leipzig. Angelino with the corner to the far side of the penalty area. It's headed away. Manchester United head got to it first, and Kunku has been replaced by Sorloth, the former Crystal Palace man who really struggled to make an impact at Selhurst Park, but then made a massive impact, Sorloth, when he was playing in Turkey with Trabzonspor last season. Scored 33 goals, which led to his move to Leipzig last month for £20 million or thereabouts. So he's on.
Hasn't quite happened for him just yet. Early days.
Not scored yet.
Leipzig. Yeah, but he's gone right up alongside Poulsen. Two big physical centre forwards.
So Manchester United leading RB Leipzig by 1-0. And ball being brought forward by Halstenberg, who's recovered from that knock that he took. So Julian Nagelsmann has made 2 of his permitted changes in the Champions League, Europa League. Remember, you can make 5 substitutions. Kevin Campbell is frustrated that free kick was given when Leipzig were in possession. Bruno Fernandes is going to come on very shortly for Manchester United. There's been an opening goal finally in the Bournemouth-Bristol City game. Chris Wise.
And it has gone to the home side with 9 minutes to go. Bournemouth 1, Bristol City 0. Arnaud Danjuma off the bench. Immediate impact. Took the ball from Dominic Solanke. Weaved into the Bristol City box. Lifted it over Dan Bentley. A breakthrough and a breakthrough for Bournemouth. They're up into the top 2 as it stands. Bournemouth 1, Bristol City 0.
Manchester United defending, but the offside flag is up against Sorloth, and it's a free kick to Manchester United inside their own penalty area. And here comes Bruno Fernandes. This is Manchester United's 3rd substitution, and he's going to replace Donny van der Beek, who made his first start this evening in the Champions League for Manchester United. Only his 3rd start since he joined the club in the summer. What do you think, Chris Sutton?
I think he was quiet. I think it's very, very difficult. Hasn't had enough game time. I think United have signed, an excellent player in Van der Beek, but it will take him time if he's not playing week in and week out. It's hard to get that rhythm, that fluency in your game. They've got strength in depth, haven't they, in those forward areas, United. Fernandes coming on. And of course, what an impact he's made at Old Trafford.
Yes. Fernandes taking up the role that Van der Beek was playing in, as Leipzig played up towards Angelino. But Wan-Bissaka has done well again tonight. Wan-Bissaka, after his impressive game in the Parc des Princes, do wonder whether he's going to force his way into the England picture in that competitive position for England, the right back role. But defensively, he certainly catches the eye.
Well, if you said who was the best defender in that right back
who's
position,
the best defender in that right back position?
Wan-Bissaka's the best defender. It's going forward where the issues are.
Danny Olmo is caught in possession by Fred. Pogba now finds Martial. Back to Fred. Now here's McTominay, newly arrived. McTominay up to Rashford on the edge of the penalty area. Halstenberg with the challenge. That's a free kick. I think he took the ball, but the referee rules that he took the man as well, and it's a free kick to Manchester United in a very good position, slightly right of centre, 23, 24 yards out.
The ball's fired into Marcus Rashford. Takes his first touch with his left foot, just draws Halstenberg in, who clatters into him, and this is an opportunity for United. Good range this, and guess who? Over the ball, Bruno Fernandes wants this.
Rashford was just too quick for Halstenberg there. His footwork, Halstenberg, yeah, excellent. Just the ball had gone, he just whipped it away, and Halstenberg committed and caught the ankle of Rashford. So free kick, Bruno Fernandes to take. Manchester United leading 1-0. 5 Live and Radio Manchester. And Bruno Fernandes staring at the ball. Fred's there as well, he's all hustle and bustle. But it's Bruno Fernandes with the free kick. He dinks it into the penalty area. Oh, and Gulacsi actually blocked it with his leg because Martial made the run. I'm not sure he got any touch on it at all.
I think he did.
A slight touch?
I think
a little tickle?
Yeah, with his stud.
Shaw now, a high ball into the penalty area. That's headed away by Halstenberg. And then Angelino just hoists it high into the Manchester air. Pogba is able to stretch for it. And then Lindelof and Manchester United have got it back on the halfway line.
It was dinked over the wall. Martial on the right-hand side of the wall spins in behind. It was like a little golf shot, a wedge shot. And Martial outstretched right boot. I thought he got the slightest of touches to it. And important save from Gulacsi in goal. Only a couple of yards out. And could that be a turning point for RB Leipzig? It would have been touch and go, another one of those decisions. Was he onside, was he offside? But well worked, he does get a touch to it, doesn't it? Gulacsi, I think he gets more lucky than anything.
McTominay's fouled, free kick to Manchester United on the right. Oh, and then the referee spots an infringement in the box. Maguire is mystified. Look, I have to say, it did look more like Maguire was being fouled, but the free kick's been given the other way, Leipzig's way, and they've got the ball on the edge of their own penalty area. 5 Live Sport on air till 10:30 tonight. We're going to hear from Jose Mourinho in the final half hour of the programme. But here's Martial into the box, turns, and Pogba is behind him in the Leipzig right-back area as Manchester United attack towards the empty Stretford end. Bruno Fernandes curls it over the top, headed away by Angelino. Bruno Fernandes does well, beats 2 Leipzig players, and then Fernandes gives it to McTominay. Now out towards the right-hand side, Wan-Bissaka is there, 2 Leipzig players with him. Back it goes to McTominay, little low ball in towards Bruno Fernandes, who couldn't find the run of Rashford, and Leipzig clear downfield. And De Gea says, leave that to me, I'll deal with it. And it rolls into the penalty area, and he picks it up. And Huddersfield Town have equalised. Isaac Mbenza has made it. Birmingham City 1, Huddersfield 1. The final whistles won't be too far away. In fact, I'll just run you through the championship scores. If I get a chance to do that, Manchester United with the ball inside their own half. Plays it forward to Fred, and then back to Lindelof. So Birmingham 1, Huddersfield 1, Millwall won 2-0 at Preston earlier, Bournemouth winning 1-0 against Bristol City, Manchester United breaking away down the right-hand side, the ball into the penalty area is played across, right across the 6-yard box by the run that was made into the penalty area by Bruno Fernandes. Now Fernandes, a left-footed shot, but it bounces all the way across the goal and behind for a goal kick. And the other latest, still Derby 1, Cardiff City 1, Luton 1, Nottingham Forest 1, and Rotherham's 3-0 up on Sheffield Wednesday. Let's get another update from Conor McNamara, who's watching the pictures of the big game of the night in the Champions League.
18 minutes to go in Turin. Juventus 0, Barcelona 1. Juve really going for it now, though. Dembele's goal separates them from the first half. Alvaro Morata's had 2 separate equalisers ruled out by VAR. There's no Ronaldo tonight, left out of the Juve squad after a COVID test 13 days ago. But Lionel Messi has 3 times now come close to scoring. It's Juventus 0, Barcelona 1.
Poulsen through the middle of the Manchester United half, played it past Fred. but passed it straight to Pogba. Now Bruno Fernandes, one-time pass through the middle. Rashford's away, clean it away, one-on-one, scores past Gulacsi.
Flag went up, John.
But was the flag raised?
The flag went up really early on the far side from the assistant. But I tell you what, regardless of the flag, how good was the pass from Fernandes? Adjusted his feet really quickly and played it first time. I'd like to have another look at this. The ball fizzed into him from Fred. It looks like he's in his own half, Rashford.
It does. It does look like that.
I mean, that would be utterly ridiculous, the decision.
We haven't kicked off yet, so whether VAR are looking at this or not.
Well, this will be really interesting. And what a finish, by the way, from Rashford. Just coolly slots it past Gulacsi. It was brilliant from Fernandes. Let's see it again. I mean, to me, he's in his own half. This goal...
Oh, the goal is being checked.
Well, it should be given.
The goal's being checked.
Come on.
And it would appear that Rashford was running from inside his own half, so this could well be 2-0 to Manchester United. The players are ready for the restart.
I mean, from the angle we're seeing, and we're not on the halfway line, of course, so the angle we're seeing on our monitor, he looks like he's in his own half, hence the goal must be given.
They are still checking.
Will that be his armpit, John? An armpit in the opposition half?
Indeed, the outside of the shirt, as it is now, the T-shirt line. So Jose Maria Sanchez, the video assistant referee, is talking away to the referee, who's just wandering around, and he's putting his whistle to his lips, and he's making the rectangle, and he says it's a goal to Manchester United. And the man of the moment, Marcus Rashford, timed his run perfectly and was inside his own half when Bruno Fernandes played that pass through the middle. Rashford scores, and it's Manchester United 2, RB Leipzig 0.
Oh, brilliant, wasn't it? Really top draw. And you have to say, since the substitutions have come on, Fernandes and Rashford, United have just looked that little bit sharper, slicker, looked more of a threat. It was brilliant from Fernandes, and then have to say, when Rashford's running through one-on-one in those situations, you don't expect him to miss, and he didn't disappoint. Lovely finish, slotted past.
And now Kluivert, who's come on as a substitute, Justin Kluivert, has taken the place of Kevin Campbell, and the first thing he's done is clatter Paul Pogba, and he's been booked for it, Kluivert. So free kick to Manchester United on the left. But with that second goal, Greenwood in the first half, Rashford in the second, you would think that the points are going to be Manchester United's, and it's going to be 2 wins out of 2 in the Champions League.
Yeah, and I tell you, going into this group, you looked at the first 2 fixtures and thought, blimey, United could be in big trouble. They'll be in the driving seat. You see this one through.
Corner is tapped. Shaw swings it in towards the back post. It's cleared away by Sørloth. Now McTominay, and then back towards the halfway line. And Manchester United will go all the way back to De Gea. So it looks as though Manchester United are going to win for the first time at Old Trafford this season, which seems strange in late October. Oh, Rashford brilliantly. He's beaten Upamecano and he scores. What a decisive finish that was from Marcus Rashford. He's made an immediate impact coming on as a substitute in the second half. 2 goals now for Rashford, and United lead RB Leipzig 3-0.
Oh, this is absolutely brilliant from Marcus Rashford and Upamecano. Everybody's talking about him. You know, he's going to be the next great defender. And Marcus Rashford absolutely rips him. 2 quick touches, goes past him as if he's not there. And then the finish is absolutely devastating. Really is. Has a little look and whips it past Gulacsi into the far corner. Game absolutely over. This is a stunning piece of play from Rashford. Has a little look. And then the finish of a really confident man.
As McTominay just tugs back Sørloth, and it's a free kick to Leipzig. But the game's gone now for the Bundesliga leaders. 3-0 down here at Old Trafford. Birmingham City are back in front. Lukas Jutkiewicz has scored in the 90th minute, so Birmingham now 2-1 up on Huddersfield Town. And free kick for Leipzig, but 2 goals for Marcus Rashford, 2 in the space of, well, it's difficult to judge what the timing was because there was such a long delay, but maybe 3 minutes. Angelino plays the ball in, but he's overhit that. Poulsen with the run, but it bounces through for a goal kick. But he's never scored a hat-trick for Manchester United. Marcus Rashford, this is the 10th time he's scored 2 goals in a match for United. Never taken the match ball. But after the struggles here at Old Trafford, in the 3 previous matches they've played this season, the defeat to Crystal Palace on the opening weekend of the Premier League, that 6-1, and then the 0-0 against Chelsea here on Saturday evening. This for Manchester United will genuinely feel that this is a little bit more like it. Manchester United with standing off the ball, which is played forward. Kluivert heads it for Forsberg, but the ball is cleared by Harry Maguire and it will land in the canvas down in front of us. Borussia Dortmund have scored the opening goal against Zenit St. Petersburg, and it is Jadon Sancho who scored for Borussia Dortmund. So Rashford scores here in Manchester, Jadon Sancho scores in Dortmund. Here's Kluivert on the right-hand side, crossing into the shins of Shaw, and the ball bounces away for a corner to Leipzig from the right. We're going to see Cavani and Tuanzebe coming on as the 4th and 5th changes for Manchester United. 10 minutes to go here at Old Trafford on this dry, cold evening. Forsberg with the corner, which is headed over the top of the crossbar by Sørloth from 8 or 9 yards out. Goal kick, Manchester United.
An out swinger from Forsberg. Maguire just does enough, puts Sørloth off, and he heads the ball well over the Manchester United bar. It's important just to make that challenge. Doesn't let him get a free header. Good defending.
Full-time whistle has gone at Bournemouth. Chris Wise.
And Bournemouth have beaten Bristol City 1-0, so the Cherries have now elevated themselves into the top 2 in the Championship. They won it with 9 minutes to go through Arno Danjuma, clipped it over Dan Bentley. He'd only been on the pitch 6 minutes, so Bournemouth still unbeaten in the Championship after 8 games. Bristol City won their first 4, and they haven't picked up any victories in the 4 that have followed. Bournemouth 1, Bristol City 0.
So Bournemouth winners against Bristol City tonight, and Edinson Cavani with that sleek, long black hair, which looks specially oiled for the Champions League occasion, runs and takes up the position through the middle up front. Pogba and Wan-Bissaka have been replaced by Cavani and Tuanzebe. So Axel Tuanzebe, after his great exploits in Paris last week, comes on to play as right back here over on the far side. And Cavani, after making his debut as a substitute for the last half hour or so against Chelsea at the weekend, makes his first appearance for Manchester United in the Champions League. And he scored, incidentally, in his first appearances in the Champions League for both Napoli and for PSG. And with Manchester United leading by 3-0, he will sniff the opportunity perhaps to get off the mark for Manchester United here at Old Trafford tonight. Martial gives it to Cavani. Cavani is muscled out of it on the edge of the box. Bruno Fernandes, this is very tight work from Fernandes, but it breaks down, and Leipzig played up to Sørloth, who pulls the ball down, the tall Norwegian, and back to Halstenberg, who lifts it forward, but Angelino is offside. We won't need to take that to the blue lines. So we're into the last 10 minutes, and Manchester United leading by 3-0. Tomorrow night, we will bring the news of all of our teams in the Europa League. Big game for your old club, Celtic, away to Lille.
They're going well, Lille, as well.
We will have all of that Europa League news, but a big Six Nations preview on 5 Live Sport tomorrow night ahead of the big weekend, as well as all of the Premier League commentaries. You will hear Italy, England and France, Ireland here on 5 Live on Saturday, and all of the previews in the Rugby Union Weekly via BBC Sounds as well. Here's Rashford on his hat-trick. Oh, lovely drift, beats 2 men, beats a third on his left foot, shoots, it's blocked, might bounce back to Rashford. They've scraped it clear. McTominay then into the area, and it bounces away from him and behind for a goal kick.
How good was that piece of skill from Marcus Rashford? I think he threw us, and we're sort of 100 yards away in the commentary box, shapes to shoot and drifts inside two Leipzig defenders into the box and manoeuvres the ball and can't quite get his shot away cleanly. Left-footed, scuffs it into Kanate, but he's made Upamecano, all the talk about Upamecano before the game, and he is a top defender, but he has made him look distinctly average on a couple of occasions now.
Yeah, mind you, Chris, I think Rashford in this sort of mood would have made many a defender look rather silly, and that was just dazzling. Yeah, in the space of a few days, I was at Villa Park on crikey, what day was it? What day was I at Villa Park?
It all just blends in, John.
Whatever day it was. When Grealish, it was Friday night, last Friday night, when Grealish had that run. If he'd scored that would have been one of the best goals I think I've ever seen live. And similarly for Rashford there, if he'd been able to land that in the back of the net, that would have been something very, very special. Rashford, there's no stopping this boy at the moment, is there? Rashford, he's on the ball again on the far side. He's got 3 targets to hit. In fact, he's got a 4th target because Fred arrives and then gives it to Martial. And Martial through the middle. The challenge comes in on him. That looked like a penalty. Leipzig are looking at the referee. And has he awarded the penalty?
Must be a penalty.
Gulacsi comes out. Yeah, Martial's got the ball. It's a penalty. The challenge came in from Sabitzer on Martial, took him down, and it's a penalty to Manchester United and a chance to put this beyond any doubt. Martial did have the ball, but Rashford has got it. No, hang on a minute.
Has he given it up?
Rashford put the ball on the spot and then walks away. And it will be Martial, who's yet to score this season. So Rashford, who's on a hat-trick, and Bruno Fernandes is on the field as well, don't forget. But Martial, who's yet to get off the mark for Manchester United this season, is going to have the responsibility for Manchester United's latest penalty. Their 6th penalty already this season. Martial, the goalkeeper, Gulacsi, receives his instructions. This to put Manchester United 4-0 up. Martial from the penalty spot, right-footed, and Gulacsi went down to his right, but Martial's beaten him with the spot kick. He scores for the first time this season, and Manchester United having a very good night, another very good night in the Champions League. 4-0 against the Bundesliga leaders, RB Leipzig.
Yeah, I tell you what, tucks it away nicely, doesn't he? Whips it across Gulacsi, who goes early, but the pace and precision on the ball into the corner. Smile on the bench from the manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's been a really good night for him and his team. They've looked really good going forward, and they're beating a side who are top of the Bundesliga, and they've made them look really poor.
So 4-0 to Manchester United, and this has been an impressive second half. Formations work well for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. McTominay is picked up. Was that for a foul throw? Anyway, it's Leipzig who Danny Olmo will take it back into his own half. But the selection, he changed half his outfield players from Saturday night against Chelsea. Change of formation as well. Oh, and now Fernandes has won the ball back, and he plays it to Cavani, who dinks it in from an angle, but the flag is up, and Cavani receiving it in an offside position. That was Upamecano was caught out again, and Leipzig fortunate Cavani was in an offside position.
He's had a stinker, hasn't he,
Second half.
Upamecano? I mean, I was reading this morning that United are going to be in for Upamecano very, very soon. If you were actually scouting him on tonight's performance, John, don't think you'd take him.
No, he's had a very tough half, certainly. And Manchester United leading by 4-0. Could be more. United with a real spring in their stride.
And I suppose if you were scouting Harry Maguire this evening, for argument's sake, you'd say that he's been top class. Funny old game, John.
Isn't it? 2.5 minutes to go. And Upamecano just forward of the centre circle. Curls a ball to Poulsen on the right-hand side. And then Kluivert back to Poulsen. He begins to move infield. And then a flick centrally from Sabitzer. But McTominay is then fouled. And it's a free kick to Manchester United halfway inside their own half.
And isn't it funny about the managers? You know, Solskjaer, question marks over whether he can coach, whether he's a good coach. And then in the other dugout, Julian Nagelsmann, a genius, doing wonders with this Leipzig team, but they've been played off the park this evening, haven't they?
Yeah, certainly in the second half they have. And Nagelsmann being talked about as a possible future Manchester United manager in the build-up to this. There's a foul on Dani Olmo centrally, free kick to Leipzig. Good night for Chelsea, 4-0 winners in Russia against Krasnodar. Manchester United 4-0 winners against RB Leipzig. PSG won in the other match in this group, 2-0 in Istanbul against Başakşehir. And in Chelsea's group, Sevilla 1-0 up on Rennes last we heard, as United win a throw-in over on the far side of the field. 5 Live, and will you be recording the Fantasy 606
it's
podcast?
Already done.
It's already done.
We don't mess about. There was one of the members of the pod who you know very well, the little fella.
Not Dave O'Brien.
Not Dave O'Brien. No, he wanted a few days off, so we had to record early.
Ah, I see. Well, that's interesting, because I haven't recorded the classified results yet, so they must be going to edit them in. Anyway, that's the new home of Sudden Death this season. If you're missing Sudden Death, that's where you find it, on the Fantasy 606 podcast, which will be available in the morning from BBC Sounds.
Many
Statman Day.
Yeah, many millions around the world, I think, were missing Sudden Death, John.
Many millions. You must have a bulging inbox. The ball's out of play for a throw into Manchester United, who are romping to victory here. But in the Juventus-Barcelona game, Conor McNamara.
Barcelona romping to victory here because they've just made it 2-0. Lionel Messi from the penalty spot as we enter time being added on for stoppages. It was Messi was dragged down inside the box. Brilliant finish. Top left-hand corner. And there's no doubt about it now. No Ronaldo for Juventus. They're going to be beaten here. Juve 0, Barcelona 2.
Thank you, Connor. We'll round everything up for you in the last half hour of the programme. But Manchester United with Martial as they go searching for a fifth. Martial stabs it across. Rashford with a chance. It's in! Right foot finish. 12 yards out. And Marcus Rashford, very much the man of the moment, has tonight at Old Trafford scored his first hat-trick for Manchester United. There is no stopping this boy at the moment. On the field, off the field. 5-0 Manchester United. Hat-trick, substitute Marcus Rashford.
What a finish again from Rashford. Good driving run from Anthony Martial, left-hand side, unselfish, feeds the ball to Rashford. Good first touch and then just lashes the ball past Galaxy from 13, 14 yards out centrally. He's not going to miss that, the player in his form. Sits up nicely, puts his laces through it into the far corner. What an impact Marcus Rashford is having at this moment in time.
It's astonishing, isn't it? What's happened to him in 2020? All of the attention. And, I was watching last week. Really, only a matter of... he'd barely come off the field, having scored the winning goal in the Parc des Princes against Paris Saint-Germain. And he was sending out tweets about the latest with his campaign and what was happening there. That's continued all week, the toing and the froing. You'd think that would sap your energy, take your attention away. Not a bit of it with Marcus Rashford, who clearly, when it comes to the main job that he's got as Manchester United's number 10, is fully focused. And tonight he's come on as a substitute and he's scored his first hat-trick for Manchester United in the space of little over 15 minutes. He's got the match ball, Marcus Rashford, And Manchester United, a 5-star performance this against last season's Champions League semi-finalists, who've not been beaten since they lost in the semi-finals. They're top of the Bundesliga, and they've been given a good hiding by United here, who've won finally at Old Trafford for the first time this season. And what a win, 5-0, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, breathtaking display from United. Rashford, absolutely stunning hat-trick it was. But all round, I thought United were excellent, all departments. You look at Leipzig, they didn't create many opportunities. De Gea had very little to do. What he had to do, he did well. Solid at the back, and then what an impact when Rashford came on. In fairness, before then, United were comfortable enough, but really important win, I think, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's had a tough start to the season in many ways, but answering his critics once again.
Manchester United's biggest win of the season so far. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer walked out onto the pitch and congratulated Marcus Rashford, who's got the match ball and he's bouncing it basketball style as he walks. He's the centre of attention here. If only the stands were full to give him an ovation off the field. Big smile on his face as Rashford walks down the tunnel with the match ball tucked underneath his arm. Manchester United 5-0 winners against RB Leipzig. Greenwood and Martial with a penalty, the other goal scorers. But Rashford is in the limelight, he's in the spotlight. A great night for Manchester United's number 10.
I can guarantee that the red half of Manchester is standing up in their kitchens, lounges, wherever they're watching or listening to that and applauding Marcus Rashford as he heads down the tunnel at Old Trafford. He's only, Opta Joe just tweeted this, he's only the second Manchester United player to score a hat-trick as a substitute. Who do you think the other one was?
Ralph Milne?
Ralph Milne?
I've got no idea. I've got no idea. The other one, George Best.
No. No. It's kind of relevant.
Right area?
That was close.
No, you're way off. It's more recent than that and relevant this evening.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Well done, Ole Gunnar
Nottingham
Solskjaer.
Forest. Was that Nottingham Forest?
Yes, it was against Nottingham Forest in February 19.
7?
Yeah, was it 8-1? Was it 8-1?
It was close.
Close. Something, yeah.
6 or 8 or 7.
85058 at 5 Live Sport. If you want to get in touch with us after that remarkable performance from Manchester United at Old Trafford. Daniel, excellent team performance from United tonight. Fair play to Pogba. He's been top quality. Andrew, haven't always been high on Fred in recent weeks, though he has been spectacular. We will properly dissect that Manchester United performance after 10 o'clock with John and Chris. Let me give you the other Champions League results throughout the evening, including the ones from earlier on, the two early games. Let's start with Group E. So Chelsea won 4-0 in Russia against Krasnodar in the 6 o'clock game. In the 8 o'clock game in that group, Sevilla beat Rennes by 1-0. So Chelsea and Sevilla both have 4. Krasnodar and Rennes both have 1. In Group F, Borussia Dortmund beat Zenit by 2-0. Club Brugge and Lazio are still playing. That's 1-1. If that stays 1-1, Lazio and Club Brugge will both have 4. Borussia Dortmund 3. And Zenit none. They've lost both their opening games. In Group G, Juventus 0. Barcelona 2. We'll get the details from Conor McNamara very shortly. Ferencvaros came from 2-0 down at half-time at home to Dinamo Kiev to draw 2-2, and Dinamo Kiev got a red card in that second half as well. So Barcelona 6, Juventus 3, Kiev and Ferencvaros on 1. Earlier on, Paris Saint-Germain won 2-0 in Istanbul against Başakşehir. And then, of course, Manchester United beating RB Leipzig 5-0. So United have 6, Paris Saint-Germain and RB Leipzig 3, and Başakşehir have none. In the Championship, it's finished Preston 0, Millwall 2, Birmingham 2, Huddersfield 1, Bournemouth 1, Bristol City 0, Derby 1, Cardiff 1. Nottingham Forest, despite being a goal down at half-time and down to 10 men, came back and got a point at Luton, and it finished Rotherham 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Sheffield Wednesday also down to 10 in that game. So Reading have 22, Bournemouth have 16, Millwall, Swansea and Watford all have 15. Bristol City and Norwich on 14. Sheffield Wednesday remain bottom on -4. Wickham have 1. Coventry, Derby 5. And Nottingham Forest 6. Let's go back to the Champions League and get details of that Barcelona win over Juventus from Conor McNamara.
Yes, well, it finishes Juventus 0, Barcelona 2. This was hoped to have been Ronaldo against Messi, but the two highest scorers in the history of the Champions League were denied a reunion. That was because of Ronaldo's COVID test 13 days ago. He was left out of the Juventus squad. Barca, who've had a turbulent week off the pitch, upheaval at board level, but on the pitch tonight, they played with gusto. Antoine Griezmann hit the woodwork inside 2 minutes. Ousmane Dembele scored the important goal of the first half. Wonderful pass from Messi to set him in motion. He attacked the Juventus penalty area. His shot was helped by a deflection on its way beyond Szczesny and into the net. Almost immediately, Juventus thought they had equalised. Alvaro Morata barged past the Barcelona goalkeeper Neto to roll the ball in, but VAR was to rule it out. One of 2 goals that denied Morata by the video assistant referee. For the second one, he was adjudged to be offside. And then right at the end, just as the clock ticked past 90 minutes, Lionel Messi tripped in the penalty area and he slammed the penalty to the back of the net. So back-to-back wins for Barcelona at the start of Group G. A significant win in Turin. Juventus 0, Barcelona 2.
Was it deserved then for Barcelona, Conor, or can Juventus feel, well, I suppose VAR decides what VAR decides, but can they feel slightly unlucky by some of the decisions that went against them?
They can too. I mean, these are both decisions which you would say in the pre-VAR era would never even have been questioned. The ball glances off the outside of the hand of Morata as he shuffles his way past the goalkeeper. He doesn't intend to handle it, but it is handball in scoring a goal. And for the other one, it's one of those marginal, get the red and blue lines out, offside. So from that point of view, Juventus will feel hard done by. I do think over the course of the game, Barcelona probably had another gear that they could have shifted into had they needed to. Dembele played really well. Messi had 3 chances in a row before he did finally get his goal from the penalty spot. So Barcelona will travel back to Spain feeling that this was a deserved win, but a big win for them as well. They needed this.
Well, A, they needed it, and B, that's good that they had for Barcelona, it's good that they had another gear to move into, because it didn't like sometimes this season it's like they haven't had any gears at all.
No, absolutely. What I noticed, Mark, was that this was the first time in a long time where Griezmann and Messi seemed to really be on each other's wavelength. Now, is this some sort of signal to say that the turmoil between them was actually being fed by turmoil at a higher level within the club? We know it's a very complicated political structure at Barcelona. But when I say they had an extra gear to move up, Ansu Fati, who's arguably been their best player this season, the 17-year-old Spanish international, he was only brought on late on as a substitute. So had he been needed earlier, they could have introduced him. And I think Pjanic as well enjoyed playing against his old team. But Barcelona, comfortable in the end. 2-0 does them justice.
And you know what they'll say now? Well, as soon as the president resigns, back to normal. Go to Juventus and win.
It's the president's resignation bounce.
Conor, thank you. Conor will stay with us between now and 10:30. As I say, you can get in touch with us here on 5 Live Sport. You text us 85058 or you tweet us at 5 Live Sport. Manchester United thrashing RB Leipzig tonight. Danny got in touch. Who would have thought that after the Spurs game that United would destroy last season's Champions League semi-finalists? Ollie is proving his big game now once again. Now he has to grab hold of games against smaller teams. We will talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactical victory over Julian Nagelsmann in the last half hour of 5 Live Sport. But at 10 o'clock, here's the news.
Digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
BBC News at 10 o'clock. This is Lisa Costello. A second national lockdown to curb the spread of coronavirus has been announced in France, starting tomorrow night. For at least a month, people will only be able to leave their homes if they fill out a form explaining why they're out, and just schools and essential businesses will remain open. President Macron said the authorities had to act now to avoid overwhelming the country's hospitals.
The virus is spreading through France at a pace that even the most pessimistic provisions had not anticipated. The number of cases has doubled in less than 2 weeks. Yesterday, 527 of our fellow citizens died of COVID-19. Yesterday, we had 3,000 patients in intensive care, which is more than half our national capacity.
A month-long partial lockdown is also coming in Germany. It will start next week and hospitality venues, gyms and cinemas will have to shut. The Chancellor, Angela Merkel, said the rules would be reviewed in 2 weeks. Plans to put parts of Nottinghamshire into England's highest tier of coronavirus restrictions have been extended to the whole county and delayed until Friday. Shops will not be allowed to sell alcohol after 9 p.m, but alcohol can be served with a substantial meal in pubs and restaurants until 10 p.m. David Mellon is the Labour leader of Nottingham City Council. He says the new curbs are needed.
I understand why people are weary after this whole year. People in Nottingham did observe those restrictions earlier on in the year to a large extent, and I would encourage them to do that again so that we can protect our hospitals.
The UK's former chief scientific advisor, Sir Mark Walport, has warned that the country could see 500 deaths a day from coronavirus by the end of next month. 310 more deaths were recorded today, taking the total to 45,675. The authorities in the US city of Philadelphia have imposed an overnight curfew following 2 nights of protests and looting after police killed a black man. Officers said he refused to drop his knife. His family say he was mentally ill. New research suggests China's policy of widespread tree planting is having a much greater impact on its carbon emissions than previously thought. Scientists say trees planted in the last 4 decades helped to absorb around 45% of the country's emissions. Professor Paul Palmer from the University of Edinburgh is one of the lead authors of the study, and he says the success is down to scale.
They've had a number of government initiatives over the last 30 years or so. Basically, now we're just reaping the rewards of this big government initiative. It's mind-boggling the number of trees and the areas that have been devoted to planting forests in some of these provinces.
And the weather. Blustery showers this evening, confined to western areas overnight. Clear skies in the east, but cloud and rain in Northern Ireland and Wales before dawn. BBC News at 3 minutes past 10.
Hear the best live sport this November with 5 Live Sports Extra on the BBC Sounds app, including women's football,
Vivian Miedemar with her 50th goal in the WSL,
Formula 1 practice sessions and qualifying.
That last lap, it got better and better as I went through it.
Rugby union.
towards the line, and it's going to be a try. Right place, right time.
International and IPL cricket.
Slog sweep over mid-wicket.
And much more.
The best live sports.
5 Live Sports Extra.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport with Mark Chapman.
Another busy Champions League evening, and the story of the night comes from Old Trafford. Manchester United 5, RB Leipzig 0. John Murray and Chris Sutton watched it. John, the details first of all.
Well, it's Marcus Rashford who's grabbing the headlines yet again, but this time for a stunning second-half cameo as the substitute Rashford ruthlessly collected his first senior hat-trick, and Manchester United at the 4th attempt won at Old Trafford for the first time this season, and what a win to make it 2 out of 2 in the Champions League and move into a strong position in what was a tricky looking group. United were edging it at half-time through Mason Greenwood's well-taken goal. VAR surprisingly ruled him onside when Pogba played him through. Anthony Martial scored the 4th goal from the penalty spot, but it's a first defeat since the Champions League semi-finals for the early Bundesliga leaders. And Marcus Rashford, what a display. It was something else. And to think that there's so much surrounding him at the moment, to look electric in the way that he did, and as well as the hat-trick, he very nearly scored what would have been an absolutely sensational goal. Amazing night for him.
Before we get on to Rashford and some of the individuals involved, as John said there, Chris, you know, RB Leipzig, Bundesliga leaders, last season's Champions League semi-finalists, Paris Saint-Germain, last season's Champions League finalists, Manchester United have gone to Paris and won and demolished RB Leipzig this evening. That is some doing from Solskjaer, with also, by the way, 2 very different formations.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there's been a criticism of Solskjaer for, a long time now. I think people saying that he can't coach and he's not up to the task of being Manchester United manager. when they beat PSG last week, it was a poor PSG. We'll probably get people saying it was a poor RB Leipzig, but that couldn't be further from the truth. He should get credit where credit's due. Sensational result in Paris last week, and tonight absolutely brilliant. Everybody talking Julian Nagelsmann up, and yes, of course he's an up-and-coming head coach who is so impressive. His whole story. But Solskjaer has outthought him tonight, outsmarted him, and we have to give him credit for that. It's been a tough start to the season for United. Lost the opening game against Crystal Palace, humiliated against Spurs, and Solskjaer held his hand up for that. But we have to give him credit when they play well, and they have played well. And, it's interesting, I mentioned his programme notes before the game, and ally that, he said players are getting fitter and sharper and performances are improving. That's hard to argue with on the evidence we've seen as of late.
I was going to say, Matt got in touch with us saying United were clearly unfit and not match ready at the start of the season. They're up and running now and showing what a good side they are. I mean, I'm assuming that isn't just taken into account tonight. I'm assuming he's looking at the win at Newcastle and the performance in Paris. I
don't want to get too carried away.
No, I know what you mean.
But, on the other hand, when things haven't gone well, honestly, the way I see United is this. If you look at the whole of last season and what they achieved under Solskjaer, and people will argue with me about this, but I thought he improved the team collectively and he improved most of the individuals in that team. So I think we have to give him credit for that. At the start of this season, I think that it's been so strange that people's perception of not just United, a lot of teams, it's triumph or disaster. And I said this on the Monday Night Club. There, many teams. I can't remember at the time how many I said who have been through crisis moments this season. And that's
you had notes on all of them. You had notes on all of them.
I did, but that's sort of the way it has been. And it's crazy. We have to wait and see after 12, 15 games how things pan out. And then it's easier to judge and judge fairly. They've had some horrific results, United. But they seem to be building nicely now. I think what was impressive tonight, and it surprised me that the changes to the team. But, it's ticking along nicely now. There is, you said it before the game, I think that up top now he's got decisions to make, good decisions to make. It'll give him a headache because there is real competition for places. Mason Greenwood may have been offside, wasn't flagged offside, good finish. He's coming to the fore now. That all bodes very, very well for United, but don't get carried away.
I thought he had a lot of credit in the bank, Mark, to be honest, after the run that they went on in the latter part of last season. Before the semi-final against Sevilla in Cologne, it was one defeat in 24. But I think to come out of the season with 3 semi-final defeats, how demanding Manchester United are. Their supporters, who are so used to success, they saw losing in 3 semi-finals as not being good enough. And then to start the season with 2 bad defeats in the first 5 matches, that's how quickly it can change. I mean, they won the 3 away games. Now, no, they did not play well in Brighton when they won there, but to lose to Palace, to lose to Tottenham in the way that they did here at Old Trafford, this is Manchester United.
It's probably the job of Chris and pundits and the media not to get carried away by one result. I suppose either positive or negative job, but Manchester United fans should allow themselves to really enjoy that performance tonight. Whether it is, Marcus Rashford's hat-trick, whether it is Mason Greenwood's finish, whether it is the performance of a player such as Fred, who has been much maligned at times, but really was the dominant influence in. I mean, he gives the ball away, but he never stopped in that midfield tonight. They should relish that tonight.
Yeah, and that's to enjoy the talent that they have in the squad. But you can't have boom bust in any scenario, and there is an element of boom bust with Manchester United. You've got to be consistent in the way that they were for that spell when I think it was 19 matches at one stage they were unbeaten towards the end of last season.
And that's what they're striving for. And another player who played really well tonight, Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire has taken one of the biggest kick-ins over the last few weeks. I thought he was outstanding tonight. I really did. I thought the centre-half pairing was very good. Now, we could turn around and say, well, Leipzig didn't have that threat in behind, and that's what Maguire, he worries about that pace in behind. But he strolled through the game this evening. De Gea had very, very little to do. We should praise United for that, because we're certainly quick to jump on them when they play badly.
But maybe on the other side of that coin, perhaps this is a night when everything caught up on RB Leipzig. And I think to talk about consistency, maybe this is a season where that's just not possible because of the congested nature of the fixtures, the demands that are being put on the players. And any team that can find consistency is probably going to do very well.
Marcus Rashford said to television afterwards, I think the manager wanted me to up the tempo. That for us means going forward. There was definitely spaces there. We got Bruno and Pogba on the ball. We looked dangerous throughout, and we could score every time we went forward. It was a real team performance. The ones who started did well. The substitutes did well too. We can't ask for much more than that in terms of the attitude and the intent to go and kill the game off. It worked in our favour. VAR gave Rashford his first goal. He said, I thought I was in my own half, so I was a bit confused when the flag went up. All we can do is wait and see when the ball is in the net. We have to work with VAR now. It's part of our game. The quicker we get used to it, the better. When he scored 2 of his goals, he then handed the penalty that United were awarded to Santi Martial. He was asked whether there was any discussion on the penalty. He said, a little bit. I feel confident with Anthony taking them as well, so no problem. His first goal is a lesson, actually, Chris, to everybody in the VAR era, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Play to a finish. I tell you what was the pass from Fernandes was so, I'm not saying underrated. It was so good. The way that he could have actually taken a touch. He manoeuvred his body and knew exactly what he wanted to do. Space him behind, put him through, and you just sort of know when Rashford gets in that position that he's going to finish. He has that ability to dink the keeper, doesn't he? Lift it over him, and in the end he just spotted the gap and slotted it in. And quite right, a lesson to everybody. Don't stop. The flag went up so early. It went up so early. Maybe he was aware of that. Maybe he wasn't. But the finish was emphatic. And good job for him. He did finish. Good job for Manchester United. But he looked absolutely electric when he came on.
Tommy, Rashford's performance needs no description, really. Perfection. Rachel, Marcus Rashford doing just about...
If it needed no description, why did he describe it?
Tommy, if you want to get back in touch, feel free. Try and make it polite enough for me to read out. Rachel, Marcus Rashford doing just about everything the right way. Statman's been in touch. No player has. No player has. Statman Dave. No player has scored more Champions League goals this season than Marcus Rashford. Which, it's not one of his best. Is it? He's literally just counted up Rashford's goals and then looked at everybody else's goals. That's a rubbish one.
Still a stat.
It's still a stat. But if you're going to give yourself the moniker of Statman Dave, you've got to come up with something better than that.
Yeah, do his XG.
Actually,
is he leading on XG as well?
No, but I did see something on the XG of Mason Greenwood's. I've got no chance of finding it now. The XG of Mason.
What did it mean?
Well, basically the XG of Mason Greenwood's last 10 goals, and all of them were about 0.04 or 0.1 or something.
Can you explain that?
Well, indicating that that normally from that position that Greenwood scored a goal, you'd only have a 1 in 10 chance of... Well, a professional footballer would have a 1 in 10 chance of scoring.
I'll tell you the other one that's getting me at the moment. I don't know if you've seen this. It's someone currently, with every Champions League group, there's some organisation that gives you the percentage chance now of that team qualifying for the next round.
Oh, excellent!
That's worth looking at. It's a percentage chance. So you've got a team that. Who is that? I think it was Liverpool last night, and so says they've now got a 98% chance of qualifying.
Yeah, United were 84% before tonight's game.
So what are they now?
So now they'll
be up at 98 as well, surely. surely, roughly.
That is utterly meaningless.
Right. Let's go back.
I'll just say apologies to anybody you've offended there.
Yeah,
but you can work it out for yourself by looking at the league table.
Well, no, you can't. You see,
you can't.
you can't. You see, because what they've done there is by Manchester United winning in Paris, they've assumed that by taking 3 points from the supposed hardest fixture in the group,
Plus
that will
the
increase. Yeah, plus times the XG, divide by 3, and then that gives them the percentage. Yeah.
And so, but then, what if they then don't qualify?
Well, then that 16% has come true.
Who cares?
Do you like? By the way, following this? Then, do you like in the cricket when they during a
no, don't like that either.
No,
predicted. What is it? Predicted outcome.
Yeah, the predicted outcome. I didn't think you would somehow. Should we go back to the actual football rather than our statistic-based conversation? In commentary, Chris, you said, I think Donny van der Beek has been quiet. It's difficult. He hasn't had enough game time. I think United have signed an excellent player, but it will take him time if he's not playing week in, week out. It's hard to get that rhythm and fluency in your game.
Yeah. Yeah, and
he did okay though, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was okay. But I think, if I'm honest, you notice the difference when Bruno Fernandes came on. He looked sharper, slicker, but he knows the players better. He knows the system better. I feel sorry for Van der Beek. He's come for big money. United supporters want to see him playing. It's like it's like anything. When I played, if you get into a rhythm, you're playing week in and week out. It's a lot easier. You understand the rhythm of the team, the way players play. You may be getting used to certain players in the team, and it starts to flow. So it's going to take time, and of course, it's difficult. I'm glad he got his opportunity tonight, but Solskjaer as Manchester United manager is in the business of winning games, and it's a sort of nice headache. But it'll be interesting to see how he's used in the forthcoming weeks. And John quite rightly said they have got so many games coming up. You think he will be used, but for his own sake, he needs to play regularly to find that rhythm. Which, of course, he got them to such good form at Ajax, playing in a team with players who he knew exceptionally well.
But also, this is a bit like I can bring Connor in here because Connor does rugby union as well, and John probably hates this phrase as well. But it's a bit like Eddie Jones brought in the phrase that it's not his substitutes on the bench, it's not his replacements, they are his finishers. And if you have 5 substitutes in the Champions League, then if you're bringing on Bruno Fernandes and Rashford and Cavani, a little bit, as Rashford said in his quotes to TV, then all of a sudden you up the pace again and you have your finishers.
Absolutely, and I think in this day and age where there's more substitutes coming onto a pitch than we've been used to in the past, they really do make that impact. And it's not just because the guys on the pitch are tiring or change of tactic. It's actually that impact of bringing on stronger players. I mean, the Chelsea game earlier on, Pulisic came on as a substitute and scored right at the end, and you could tell that was that impact presence of coming on to do that. So yeah, look, I think the way that it has been through Project Restart, remember in the summer we had the drinks breaks and stuff like that, but this idea of just being able to make more substitutes has changed the mentality, and for clubs like Manchester United and indeed Chelsea, when they've got that depth of talent, they can use it so effectively.
Are you a big fan of substitutes being called finishers, John?
Actually, I don't mind that.
Oh, you don't mind that? Nope. All right. But if you had to work out the percentage of Manchester United winning when they brought Rashford and Bruno Fernandes.
Less interested.
Yeah, less interested. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has told television the group is coming together. We've added quality players. The more quality and team spirit we have, the better we can be. Playing last season's Champions League semi-finalists, you won't get many chances, but we did the hard work. On Van der Beek, he said, Donny's a fantastic player, and boy, you see the work he does on and off the ball. Very pleased with him. We made changes because of Sunday. We have to be ready for that. Of course, Manchester United play Arsenal on Sunday, and you will hear full commentary of it here on 5 Live. Let's just touch on the Europa League. Back tomorrow night, Tottenham away to Royal Antwerp from 5:55. Spurs, of course, won their opening group game against Lask. Jose Mourinho has held his press conference. He's had a lot to say about Gareth Bale, particularly when he was asked about him being unpopular in Spain.
Well, one thing is reputation, another thing is facts. I would love to have his reputation and 4 Champions League. I have only 2. So the facts with Gareth are that he made a difference at that club. It was a club for years and years and years and years, more than 1 decade without even a quarter-final of a Champions League. Then a big jump in front with 3 consecutive Champions League semi-finals. And when he arrived, they won 4 in 5. So for me, these are the facts. The reputation is not important for me. The facts are important. He made a huge difference in the club. I can only speak about him with us, and him with us, amazing. His behavior as a team guy is incredible. His behavior as a Tottenham man is remarkable, and he's coming. I can see just with my eyes, but then the scientific data is also coming and is working very, very well. And I think tomorrow we can see already Gareth at a good level, and hopefully he can fly because he's working very hard. So he's playing.
So that was Jose Mourinho on Gareth Bale. You know, you look at the options that are available, that we talked about being available for Manchester United going forward, and all of a sudden, Tottenham have very similar options, don't they, going forward? You know, people wondered where goals would come from at times last season, but now, you know, throw Gareth Bale in when Son and Kane are flying with their strike partnership, and Lucas Moura, and Bergwijn, and Vinicius, and you've still got Dele Alli if he was in favour. All of a sudden, their options are plentiful too, Chris.
No. Well, you know, are we going to go over the top again about Spurs? You know, at the first game of the season, they were a busted flush. Now, a few weeks later, Son and Kane are linking up well, and they have the greatest depth of forward players out there.
No, I didn't say that. I just said they seem to have some options.
But do they? They still have some to go and match what Kane and Son are doing. I think Gareth Bale has been a great player. I still think that he has to prove it. Now he's come back to Spurs. Okay. Which Gareth Bale are we going to see with the likes of Bergwijn? I think it's been a decent piece of business. Lucas Moura, again, you know, when Harry Kane's was not playing centre forward last season, there was this argument, wasn't there? Spurs don't have another centre forward. Now we're talking about Lucas Moura. You know what a great player he is. I still think, you know, let's just hang fire a little bit with this. Wait and see. Son and Kane have been brilliant.
All I said was they're not. Do you think, John Murray? Do you think Tottenham have options?
Yes. I do think
you. Connor,
they've got options, and I think that is very much a deliberate policy to have the options, just in case this season catches up with them.
How good are the options? Can they replace Kane and Son? That's
Chris
a different
has been very
question.
Harsh because
you're playing a numbers game.
More goals in the Premier League this season than any other team. So
yeah, how many have Kane and Son scored of those goals? So how could I be being harsh?
Not all of them.
Well, not all of them, but go on percentage-wise then.
I don't know.
What's their XG? there you go. You see, you've got nothing.
Last year they weren't. Last year they weren't the top scorers, and they did over rely on those two. And now this year, those two are still scoring and added to others. So I think Chappers is right. They've added to their options.
Oh, come on, Connor. It's the Kane and Son show wherever you go, and I've got them out of my fantasy team now.
Well, do you know, that was going to be my question about why you're so miserable with this discussion.
Yeah, because
whether your fantasy performance comes into it. I've occasionally listened to the pod thing, and I can't the last time I listened was about 3 weeks ago, so I can't remember. Have you got them in, or have you ditched them both? What is it?
I'll tell you why I got because that idiot Dave O'Brien, said that Son was going to be injured that week when they came to Old Trafford. So I took him out of the team, took Kane out as well, because I thought they were a great partnership. And they scored 6. And just because I'm stubborn, I'm not putting them back in the team now. Right. With someone else. So
and you're letting it affect your punditry.
That's another argument. John's agreeing with you. He's nodding his head.
Yeah,
they've combined. I'm actually trying to listen to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in one ear. I'm nodding at what he's saying.
Oh, are you? Okay. They've combined for 29 goals in the Premier League of Kane and Son, which is 7 behind the all-time combination of Drogba and Lampard. David Silva and Sergio Aguero also combined for 29, as did Pires and Thierry Henry. And combining for 27, Darren Anderton and Teddy Sheringham. So if you had to pick one combination out of those 5 combinations, which would it be, Chris?
Oh, why didn't you go John first? Because he's more measured. Who was the top pairing?
Drogba and Lampard.
Drogba and Lampard.
Okay, Connor.
Yeah, they're not a strike partnership, though, are they? I mean, absolutely.
No,
Lampard
just how they combined for goals in the Premier League. Yeah.
Setting each other up. Yeah. I loved watching David Silva. He was on the same wavelength as Sergio Aguero, so just to be different, I'd go for those 2.
Okay, John.
God, that's a tough question, that. At this time of night.
When you're only half listening.
I'll tell you what's happened. Yeah, he wasn't listening fully, and is now thinking, "Who did you say?"
I'm trying to think. Thierry Henry.
Yeah, and Robert Pires. Pires and Henry.
Pires Henry, Bergkamp Henry.
No, I didn't give you Bergkamp and Henry. Yeah. Do you know what? If you can't be bothered to listen, I'm not going to talk to you.
Oh, well, I'll take Pires and Henry then.
Pires and Henry, right. Marcus Rashford has tweeted as well, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes ago, and it said 3 goals, 16 minutes, 1,030,000 signatures. Can't stop smiling. I've waited a long time for that. Just wish the fans were in to experience it with me. #end child food poverty. He's going to be all over the back pages, Chris, because of both his off-pitch and on-pitch exploits. Just focusing for us on his on-pitch exploits. His finishing was sensational tonight.
Yep. He's already a top player. His finishing, his link-up play, the threat which he offers. He's a brilliant footballer, a brilliant person. But off the bench tonight, United just looked such a better team going forward. They had that impetus, that threat, that confidence when he came on, and long may it continue for United.
And the diamond means that Rashford, Greenwood, Martial, Cavani can all go through the middle as a whatever combination, as a duo, doesn't it? They're less forced out wide.
Yeah, just listening to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he was asked about that, Mark, and he actually said it's the squad, it's the players he has in the squad that is allowing him to use the different systems. So, suggestion there is that there is a strategy behind this.
Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with John's strength in depth that United have in the squad. A couple of weeks ago, it was tragedy at United. They're going backwards under Ole. What a difference a couple of weeks makes.
Just to remind you of the results this evening then. In the Champions League, it finished Krasnodar 0, Chelsea 4 and Sevilla 1, Rennes 0. In Group F, Club Brugge 1, Lazio 1 and Borussia Dortmund 2, Zenit 0. In Group G, Barcelona won 2-0 at Juventus. Ferencváros and Dinamo Kiev drew 2-2. And in Group H, Manchester United beating RB Leipzig 5-0. And Başakşehir losing 2-0 at home to Paris Saint-Germain. In the Championship, wins tonight for Millwall, Birmingham, Bournemouth and Rotherham. Derby and Cardiff and Luton and Nottingham Forest, those 2 games finished 1-1. Chris and Connor, thank you very much for being with us and listening to me. John Murray has been with us as well. And the other side of the BBC News on 5 Live, it's Ben Zand.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the 5 Live headlines, I'm Rob Schofield. A second national lockdown to curb the spread of coronavirus has been announced in France. From tomorrow night, people will only be able to leave their homes if they fill out a form explaining why. Schools and essential businesses will remain open for at least a month. A similar partial lockdown is also coming in Germany. Plans to put parts of Nottinghamshire into England's highest tier of COVID restrictions have been extended to the whole county and delayed until Friday. Shops will not be able to sell alcohol after 9 p.m, but it can be served with a substantial meal in pubs and restaurants until 10. The UK's former chief scientific advisor, Sir Mark Walport, has warned that the country could see 500 deaths a day from coronavirus by the end of next month. 310 more were recorded today, taking the total to 45,675. And authorities in the US city of Philadelphia have imposed an overnight curfew following 2 nights of protests and looting after police killed a black man. Officers said he refused to drop his knife. His family say he was mentally ill. In sport, a huge result for Manchester United, beating RB Leipzig 5-0 at Old Trafford in the Champions League. Marcus Rashford came off the bench to score a hat-trick. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side are top of their group, as are Chelsea, after Hakim Ziyech scored his first goal for the club in a 4-0 win away to Krasnodar. Barcelona, in turmoil off the pitch, comfortably beat Juventus 2-0 in Turin, while England's Jadon Sancho netted for Borussia Dortmund. Everton's on-loan forward Moise Kean scored both goals in PSG's 2-0 win over Istanbul Başakşehir. In the Championship, Bournemouth beat Bristol City 1-0 to go second. Millwall are fourth after winning away to Preston. Derby's draw with Cardiff was enough to lift them out of the bottom 3 on goal difference. The rest of the results are on the BBC Sport website. This as EFL chairman Rick Parry says clubs feel victimised by the government over a lack of financial support and a ban on fans in grounds. And world tennis number 1 Novak Djokovic beat Borna Coric to reach the Vienna Open quarterfinals and all but secure the year-end top ranking.
If you're over 75 and receive pension credit, you can still get a free TV licence. But if you don't get pension credit, you now need to pay for one. If you've already applied for your new TV licence, then the BBC would like to say thank you. But if you haven't applied for yours yet, don't worry, because it's easy and safe to apply for a free or paid TV licence from home. Simply call us on 0300 790 6151 or go to tvl.co.uk/age.
Colin Murray, Monday to Wednesday night on 5 Live with Ben Zand.
Hello everybody, I'm Ben Zand standing in for Colin Murray. It's my first appearance on radio, so this is quite a special moment in my life, and it could also go extremely wrong, so I'd listen just to see what happens with that, really. Colin has well and truly showed me the ropes. He's emphasised that this is like a special club of positivity and good times, so I hope your days have been nice in the rain and endless stories about coronavirus aren't bringing you down too much. We have what I feel is a fantastic programme tonight. At midnight, we're going to be talking about something you're probably hearing quite a lot of lately. Actually, you're not hearing much about. It's travelling. I freaking love it, and I've had my wings clipped for the last few months, and it is properly getting to me. So we're going to try and relive a bit of that wanderlust by talking about some of our happiest and weirdest moments and hearing from you guys about some of your craziest travel stories. Where's the weirdest place you've slept, or the most dangerous place you've been, or the strangest food you've eaten? Just let us know. Before that, it's the big one, conspiracy theories. You definitely know someone who believes in one. Coronavirus means they're flying around all over the place, and you may be verging on believing one yourself. You might even think that mainstream media is a part of it, and by connection, I'm not, just for reference, but we're not going to be getting too caught up on specific conspiracies today. Instead, and more importantly, we're talking about what you can do if one of your family members has been swept up by a conspiracy, taken to a point that they become a different person. How do you talk to them? How do you bring them back? Is there any hope? There have been some really sad stories coming out as of late of people who have lost their parents or kids to conspiracy, and we've got a great set of guests to help us figure out what we can do about it. But for the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be looking at some of the biggest news stories of the day. And first up, what else? Coronavirus. Evidence from across Europe suggests that the coronavirus pandemic is spreading more quickly, with tighter controls on day-to-day life coming as a consequence. In the last few hours, President Macron has announced the second lockdown for France, and Germany's also announced tighter restrictions. Here in the UK, ministers have been warned that around 25,000 people could be hospitalised with COVID-19 by the end of the month. And Sir Mark Walpole is a member of the SAGE group of scientists advising the government. He says the rate of transmission makes that number plausible.
It's certainly not unrealistic to think about that. As Ian Diamond said on television recently, if the reproduction number, the R0, stays at 1, it means that every 10 people infect 10 more. At the moment, the number is higher than that. It's between 1.2 and 1.4, but varies very widely, not only according to different age groups, but also different parts of the country.
Dr. Gabriel Scally is from Independent SAGE, a group of scientists and health professionals similar to those advising the government. And he's going to break some of this down for us. Hello, Dr. Scally.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going all right. I'm doing all right. I don't think COVID's doing better than I am. It's galloping away.
Yeah, so what do you make of this prediction that there'll be 25,000 people in hospital by the end of the month?
Well, there'll be a lot more. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if anyone has got a crystal ball and can tell you what the numbers are likely to be. But what you can look at is the trajectory and the way it's going up at the moment, and the deaths in particular. Very disturbing. Another 200 odd deaths today in England. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, the way we're going about it.
I mean, is this the worst Europe has been? Yeah, I saw that President Macron said that this is worse than even the most pessimistic projections.
I think it is worse than the projections. When you listen to some of the modelling people, they modelled this outbreak, this pandemic, that there would be a big peak in the first wave, and then the second wave would be smaller, and then maybe the third wave smaller again. And it hasn't worked out that way, really. Things are really heating up this time, despite some of the things that are in place in countries like the UK and happening in different parts of the UK in different ways. But there are restrictions across the UK. But nonetheless, it's looking very, very worrying with numbers of positive cases still going up. And as we know, in due course, that feeds its way through to hospital admissions and then feeds its way through to deaths. So I think the outlook is really, really bumpy.
Yeah, I mean, what does that, potential 25,000 people in hospital by the end of the month, what will hospitals be able to cope, do you think?
I think hospitals will have great difficulty. As you know, unfortunately and sadly, in the first part of the pandemic, we lost over 600 NHS and care home staff died because of the virus. So it doesn't just affect really old people, it affects working people as well, particularly those who come into really close contact with the virus. And, it did the same for bus drivers and some taxi drivers as well, people who were in close proximity with people. But let's talk about the NHS. I think the NHS staff are already exhausted because they've been trying to catch up with a lot of the other work that the NHS does that stopped because of the first lockdown. And they've been working amazingly, but they are prone to getting the virus, and their families are as well. And we don't have it under control. So it's going to spread in those people's families, and they may have to go into isolation, and that cuts the workforce again. And as you know, the NHS in the UK is not self-sufficient. We depend upon people coming, a constant flow of people coming to this country to help our NHS work. So all of those problems are mounting up.
Is there a bit of potential positivity in that hopefully they'll, be a little bit more equipped to handle it this time around? Obviously, we've gone through an entire first wave. So that...
and it's one of the great reasons for delaying the virus as much as we can and suppressing it as much as we can, give us a chance to learn more about it. And we already know a lot more about it. There's more to learn, but including some of the the things that work, and dexamethasone, the drug that we now know is effective to help some people who are really seriously ill with it. But we haven't found a cure, unfortunately, even though it's very clear that clinical staff will be able to handle it better if they get the chance to handle it better, and we're not overwhelmed by cases. But the Nightingale hospitals were a great institution when they were set up, and they weren't used much in the first wave of the pandemic, but they might have to be used this time.
I mean, people will not want to hear this question. I don't even want to ask it, but, you know, do we need tougher restrictions? France and Germany are obviously doing that. Do you think we should be doing the same across the country?
Sure we do. You know, we're in this mess. If you look back to the beginning, Ben, I mean, we're in this mess because the restrictions weren't put on at the very beginning. The government waited and waited and waited and said it wasn't yet time. And by the time they put the lockdown into effect, the virus had spread all over the place in huge numbers. And we paid the price, a very long lockdown and a lot of deaths and a lot of people with long COVID in the aftermath. And then when the lockdown got the numbers way down in the summer, in July, but then they took the foot off the pedal and relaxed everything for the summer, and we're paying the price for that. And the only way to get this under control, and SAGE, the official SAGE, said in September that there should be really severe restrictions to get the number of cases back down again. And the group of which I'm a member, Independent SAGE, who provide an alternative source of advice, very public advice, to the government and to health professionals. We've been saying for weeks now that we really, really need to go into some serious restriction and get this virus down. But the other thing we really need to do is get the test and trace system working, because it's been a shambles, and it's been a £12 billion shambles, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't done the job. So the government has this tendency of not doing things when they should do them, and waiting and waiting and waiting, and they've got it wrong.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it, though, in the sense, you know, obviously Christmas is coming up. You know, this news that, you know, potentially by mid-December the whole of England will be in tier 3, meaning people, you know, might not be able to see the families. That's obviously a big talking point at this point. What do you think? I mean, is Christmas over?
Well, I think Christmas it was never going to be normal under any circumstances, given where we are with the virus. But it's looking as if it's going to be difficult. Now, I think we have to work our way through it in a sensible way. We have to think up strategy.
What's that digital, so like a Zoom Christmas dinner?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't taste very nice, but you could have an amnesty for the day and say, well, all the rules are off for the day. You could have a sort of a budget of, well, these are the sort of things you could do, and you discuss in a family as to how you would do them to have some sort of a Christmas, and then go back to the restrictions after Christmas. Or you could say, well, we are going to have to do it within social isolation. But, if the government acted now, if they bring in some right across the country restrictions, and also if they put the financial resources in place to support people properly when they're being closed down for some weeks, and if they also abandoned their failed so-called NHS test and traces, who's actually being run by the private sector, and it hasn't worked, and they were to put a proper public health-based system, really working locally, working with local directors of public health and local public health teams who have done a marvellous job. We could, by Christmas, be on top of the virus again, and it would give us a much easier time over that festive period.
And then, as a final question, just to end on, hopefully some positive notes, what is positive at the moment? What are you thinking are good points here?
Well, the good points are, we've heard that one of the vaccines, the Oxford vaccine, is coming on very well. And they're talking about getting it approved by the end of the year. So hopefully early in the new year, we'll start to see supplies of a vaccine that will help us, those supplies starting to flow. And that's something to look forward to. It could make a big difference, but there is no magic cure for this. It's all of these things. I would even have to going back to the 2 meter rule. It was a very sensible one, and it should never have been dropped, the 2 meter distancing. All of these things all add one to the other, but they've got to be they've got to be effective. So the restrictions have got to be effective. The testing and tracing and the isolation has to be effective. And I also think we need to do something about having a managed isolation system for people arriving into the country, because there's no use in us getting it down and then large numbers of cases being imported through our ports and our airports. So there's a real job to be done. But you know, I'm always optimistic. Public health will get on top of this if we're given the chance to get on top of it. And I think by the middle of next year, there's every chance that we should have this under really decent control in the UK.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gabriel Scally. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Now we're going to what is a very upsetting story. So 2 adults and 2 children who died yesterday when their migrant boat sank in the Channel off the coast of Dunkirk have been identified as members of the same Kurdish Iranian family. Their 50-month-old boy is still missing. At a time in Dunkirk, at a camp in Dunkirk, another refugee, Bilal Gaff, said the family had stayed close to his tent for 3 or 4 days before they left.
Everyone feels sad, very sad, but maybe I cannot show my feeling in my I laughing, but in my inside I cry. It's very sad. But what can I do? Nothing.
The family were amongst a large number of refugees fleeing Iran in recent months. But why are so many people desperate to leave the country? Azadeh Movani from the International Crisis Group is an Iranian-American writer who's written extensively on Iranian life and politics. She's here now. Hello, Azadeh.
Hi, good to be with you.
Thank you for joining me. So what is happening? Why are so many people leaving Iran?
Well, what we've been seeing in the last year or year and a half really is that Iran's economy has been pushed into deep penury. U.S. sanctions on Iran, the Trump administration has imposed a really crushing economic blockade on the country, which has meant that Iran's currency has sunk by 40%. Inflation is really high. The government can't sell its oil. Iran is an oil-rich nation, but it can't sell oil to buy foods and medicines and sort of basic goods. Iran is cut off from the international banking system. So, of course, trade and foreign investment and all of that isn't coming in. So really, this country of 80 million people is being pushed into total penury. You're seeing poor families, this family that really horrifically drowned in the Channel were poor. The father was a construction worker. So we're seeing really the most vulnerable in Iran, utterly crushed by the state of the economy, kind of brought about by sanctions, and shortages of medicines too. So I think it's really quite desperate, and you see people willing to risk what this family risked to just get out.
And obviously, I mean, travel is pretty complicated at the moment in general because of coronavirus, and borders are more difficult to cross. Are these people travelling from Iran right now to Europe to try and get into the UK, or are these people who are already in the EU going to the UK as another resort to get asylum?
Many of these are people leaving from Iran itself. So they're selling, everything that they own, liquidating whatever is left of their savings after inflation. And some of them, travel through Turkey, through the land border, and they come that route. I mean, some of them do manage to get to other countries of Europe first, but, they're starting out with the intention of ending up in the UK and transiting through.
And what do you think it is about the UK?
Well, I think many Iranians speak some English. Many of those who try to come have some skills and education, and they feel that they can kind of put that to work in the UK better than in other European countries. Traditionally, refugees or migrants who came from Iran were quite well heeled. You would have, graphic designers and people with master's degrees coming because they felt there was no future for them with the state of the economy the way that it was. But now I think we're seeing, even quite poor families like this one even attempting to make the journey.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned economic sanctions and general difficulties. I've actually got family myself in Iran, so I'm aware of it in that sense. What do you think there's a chance of economic sanctions being eased at any point and the economy bouncing back?
I mean, all eyes are on the U.S. election because if I think Iran's fate is really hanging in the balance. The UK, Europe, they have tried to mitigate the effects of these US sanctions on Iran, but really they have just not been powerful enough or inclined enough. And the UK, obviously, in this awkward position with Brexit, having to sort of balance itself between the US and the rest of Europe and trying to stand up against these sanctions and to kind of keep Iran, somehow engaged in this nuclear deal that kind of unraveled all this in the first place. So I think I think there's a good chance that if Biden wins this election, there will be a swift move to try and get Iran back to the table, to get it back into.
So this is the joint comprehensive plan of action around the nuclear agreement.
Exactly. This is the agreement that Trump pulled out of unilaterally and then reimposed sanctions kind of on the back of. Sanctions affecting everyone else. I mean, everyone else, all these countries that are still a party to the deal are still signatories to it. But they're punished by the U.S. sort of secondarily. So their companies are too afraid. Their banks won't do business with Iran. They won't sell Iran medicines, really, which is the worst thing, because Iran, as I'm sure, it had the sort of highest rates of COVID after China in the spring, so impacted, and not even getting those humanitarian goods in, I think, is kind of fueling this desperation.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so we just briefly mentioned the US election there. We're just 6 days from polling day in the US presidential election. This is a massive one. And the candidates are out on the campaign trail looking to sweep up every last available vote where it matters. The Democratic Party challenger Joe Biden is ahead in the polls. He's cast his ballot in his home state of Delaware, saying he hoped to make things better for everyday Americans. His Republican rival, President Trump, cast an early vote last week. Both candidates have been attending campaign rallies. Mr. Trump is in the battleground state of Arizona, in Bullhead City, near the Nevada state border, where he addressed his supporters.
For years, you had a president who apologized for America. Now you have a president who is standing up for America and standing up for the great people of Arizona and Nevada. And Nevada, I got to add those people. They're great. They've been great. Thank you.
Mr. Biden, meanwhile, has criticised the president for holding a rally in Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday evening, which saw some attendees hospitalised after they were forced to wait in the cold. He said it was emblematic of Mr. Trump's whole approach.
It's an image that captures President Trump's whole approach to this crisis. He takes a lot of big pronouncements and he makes a lot of big pronouncements, but they don't hold up. He gets his photo op and then he gets out. He leaves everyone else to suffer the consequence of his failure to make a responsible plan. It seems like he just doesn't care much about it. And the longer he's in charge, the more reckless he gets. It's enough.
Among the crucial swing states is Ohio. That was won by Donald Trump by a margin of 8 points in 2016. What chance is there of a repeat? These female suburban voters at Bowling Green Ice Hockey Rink in Wood County, Ohio, explained how they'd be voting this time round.
I could go both ways on some of the social aspects, but the ones that are the most important to me, I lean Republican, and I really think a business leader is what we need for the economy.
I believe I'm voting for Biden.
Did you vote Trump before?
I will not say.
But even though the election is in 6 days, could the outcome have already been decided? The US public have been voting early in record numbers. Indications that 70 million Americans across the country might have already cast their vote, cast their ballot either by post or in person. Let's speak to John Zogby. He's a leading US pollster and founder of John Zogby Strategies. Hello, John.
Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you? 6 days in the run-up.
Yes. Well, as we speak right now, advantage Joe Biden. I will remind your listeners, however, that if we spoke 4 years ago to this minute, it would be advantage Hillary Clinton, and she went on to lose. The difference this time is that things are trending for Biden. 4 years ago, they had already begun to trend away from Hillary Clinton. So there are some key differences.
I mean, is this level of early voting unprecedented in a US election?
Completely, totally unprecedented, with approaching 75 million who've turned out to vote. We're in a situation now where, at this moment, that's about half of the likely turnout in the total vote for this presidential race. Perspective-wise, there were 136 million voters in 2016. You have well over half of that already. So, and the demographics of this group are pretty clear that they favor Joe Biden.
Does that mean, though, that are we going to see a record of voters in general, or are people just voting more because of coronavirus and we'll see less people come on the day?
Well, less people will come on the day, but when all is said and done, the projected 150 million of voters will be, first of all, a record number of voters and a record percentage of U.S. adults turning out to vote, and by far and away a record.
Well, and what's it like being a pollster trying to figure all this out? I mean, how complex is it to try and navigate what may happen?
Well, you know, the technology has changed, and so we have that to contend with, calling cell phones or polling online. At the same time, the sociability of the American people have changed, where nuisance calls come in, we're part of that nuisance, and then Mr. Trump just confounds everything. And that's not a partisan comment on my part, but you know, he defies the rules, and it's very hard to predict where he's coming from.
And would it be fair to say that the majority of those voting early are voting for a specific candidate, or is it to who? Yeah, our polling shows that among early voters, Joe Biden leads by 16 percentage points, but on election day itself, those just voting on November 3rd, Donald Trump has the advantage by 18 percentage points. So we've got a big blue wave that's happening right now. I will say, though, it is a much bigger blue wave than even we anticipated. Now we have to see how many turn out actually on election day. That will favor the president. And just to get clarification, this is probably because I'm a little bit stupid, but when you're doing polling, so you're calling people up and you're asking them who they're going to vote for, that's primarily what you're doing here?
Yes, we are, and then asking them questions about their demographics so that we know who we're talking to.
And what does the fact that so many people have already voted in the middle of a pandemic tell us about the state of US democracy or people's fears of the pandemic itself? They don't want to go to the polls.
Well, it tells us two things, mainly that the country is split, you know, that many people are coming to vote for the pandemic because of the pandemic. But, you know, while 2/3 of voters disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of it, there is a very intense 1/3 of voters who are voting in defiance of science and in defiance of shutting down not shutting down the economy, but slowing the economy down.
And does the fact that so many people have voted early, does that slightly reduce the chance that there's going to be some major catastrophic event, you know, aka Clinton's emails, you know, because there's less votes available, is there now less chance of an earthquake?
There's less of a chance of an earthquake, yeah. You know, figuring you'll have less than half that will vote on election day, and very, very few are undecided. At this point, we only have 2% of the likely voters who are undecided. Normally, even at this point, it's 7 or 8% undecided, and it's getting late in the game for a major game changer. But I will caution, it can happen. I mean, there's a very narrow path for victory, narrower this time for Donald Trump, but he's done it before.
All right, thank you so much. for joining us. After the news, we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. What happens if one of your loved ones gets taken by a conspiracy theory? You find it difficult to talk to them. What can you say to try and bring them back? We're going to be speaking to some fantastic guests, some experts on conspiracy, to get a sense of what you can do. Coronavirus means that there are quite a bit of conspiracy theories out there at the moment, so you don't want to miss this.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the BBC News at 11 o'clock, this is Jason Kay. President Macron of France has announced a new national lockdown as cases of COVID-19 surge around Europe. From Friday, at least until the 1st of December, people across France will be required to stay at home unless they have a valid reason to be out. But schools and factories will remain open. Our correspondent in Paris, Hugh Schofield, says Mr Macron's actions come after 523 COVID-related deaths were reported in France in the past day.
If nothing is done, then everyone seems to be saying that in a couple of weeks from now, we will have a situation where hospitals are having to make choices which in a modern Western democracy no doctors should be asked to make. They're going to be faced with overcrowded intensive care units and emergency units with people coming from car crashes, heart attacks and so on, competing for places with people who've got COVID. And it's that kind of terrible choice which the president wants to avoid by making sure that the current rise is stopped in its tracks right now.
A month-long partial lockdown is also coming into force in Germany. Here, the Justice Secretary Robert Buckland has said that Christmas in its fullest sense may not be achievable for any of us this year. A report has revealed that dozens of COVID patients were discharged from hospital into care homes in Scotland early in the pandemic, despite having tested positive for the virus. Today's report by the Public Health Scotland body says that hospital discharge is associated with an increased risk of an outbreak, but concludes that it's not statistically significant when other factors such as care home size are taken into account. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon was pressed on the finding in her daily briefing.
This does not say that hospital discharges in all circumstances, that there was no factor at all. It just says it wasn't a statistically significant one. But that doesn't take away from the need for us to learn about what did happen in care homes so that we can make sure we make the changes that are designed to minimise and mitigate that for the future.
Relatives of a Kurdish-Iranian migrant family who died yesterday when their boat sank in the English Channel say they're desperate for news about the youngest child. The bodies of Rasul Iran Najad and Jiva Mohammed Panahi and two of their children, aged 9 and 6, have been found. The family have been living in a migrant camp in Dunkirk in northern France. A charity worker said everyone was grieving.
I'm feeling frustrated, angry and heartbroken. My heart is really broken because of this family. I mean, I used to know the family. I play with their kids, so yeah, it is heartbreaking.
Police and mountain rescue teams are searching for a missing Team GB fell runner in Perthshire. Chris Smith, who's 43, hasn't been seen since setting off for a run from Inverrah near Aberfeldy yesterday afternoon. His family say he could have become disorientated and ended up further afield. Record numbers of an endangered species of turtle have hatched on a beach in northern Mexico. The Seri community in Sonora State says the increase in baby olive ridley turtles is largely due to reduced tourism due to the pandemic. That's the BBC News for now. It's 3 minutes past 11.
BBC 5 Live.
Scott Mills and Chris Stark.
Richard and Judy are with us. For some reason, we now play love songs every week. Richard and Judy, do you two have a song?
Question. Oh, I've forgotten if we do. It was such a long time ago.
Oh, we both like Vincent, don't we? Don McLean's Vincent, that's a beautiful song. Right. But it's not a love song, is it?
But it's not our song,
but that's a song about a dead artist.
Can you remember?
Scott Mills and Chris Stark. Listen now with the BBC Sounds app. Colin Murray, Monday to Wednesday night on 5 Live with Ben Zand.
Welcome back to the show. And coming up after midnight, we're dedicating the hour with no name to escapism. We're talking about travelling, because that's something that we can't do for real at the moment. So we're going to take you on a bit of a midnight mystery tour around some destinations off the beaten track. We're talking dark tourism, glamping in UFOs and paying to sleep in prisons. Let us know your best travel stories too. I'd love to hear them. The greatest or weirdest destinations you've been to. But for this hour, it's something completely different. Conspiracy theories are nothing new. They've been around much longer than I have. But what do you do when someone in your circle of friends or even in your family starts disappearing down those rabbit holes? How do you have those conversations without having rows and without ruining relationships? We've got some fantastic guests for the next hour, and that's where we're going to start. One of the knock-on effects of COVID-19 has been a sharp increase throughout the world of people buying into conspiracy theories. You probably know a fair few people who have touted a couple of conspiracy theories over the last few months. You're not alone. My dad has also done so. And a survey involving 26,000 people in 25 countries published this week by YouGov found widespread criticism towards official sources of information on the pandemic. Some of the respondents believed COVID-19 was created deliberately. Others think the whole thing is a hoax. And one of the most commonly held beliefs is that the death rate of the virus has been deliberately and greatly exaggerated. 60% of respondents in Nigeria said this was definitely or probably true. In the case of Greece, South Africa, Poland and Mexico, it's 40%. 38% of Americans believe that the death rate is exaggerated, as do 36% of Hungarians, 30% of Italians and 28% of Germans. So in conclusion, quite a lot of people. The research from the survey suggests that the pandemic has prompted a wave of disinformation, fake news and conspiracy theories that have spread virally on social networks. In the UK, 22% of respondents thought official figures on death rates had been exaggerated, whilst potentially more worrying, 19% had concerns about the safety of any vaccine that developed to fight it. So what's driving the growth of conspiracy theories? Why are so many people engaging with them? And what can you do if one of your loved ones is swept up by one? Joining me for the hour is Dr. Jovan Byford. He's a senior lecturer in psychology at the Open University, and he's written extensively about conspiracies. It's safe to say you know what you're talking about, Jovan?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, I've written a lot about conspiracy theories.
Fantastic, you're in the right place. And also we have Marianne Spring. She's the BBC's specialist disinformation reporter. What a name for a job, Marianne. What does that mean?
Yes, a very unique job title.
Explain your remit a bit.
So I cover disinformation and conspiracy theories that goes viral online and the impact it has on the real world.
You must be the busiest woman on the planet at the moment.
Yes, with the US election very close and a global pandemic, it's safe to say I've had my hands full.
How do you... Because, if you start to look into conspiracies, you end up looking at loads of YouTube videos and then your brain melts. How do you handle that, researching these topics?
It mainly involves trying to distance myself from the actual content that I'm consuming, and also actually speaking to the people who spread disinformation, who are impacted by it. And by humanizing it, not only does that allow me to report on it more effectively and to tell a compelling story, but actually it makes it easier to cover because I can actually talk to real human beings rather than watching very worrying hours and hours of YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually why I wanted to do the story, partially because I saw your fantastic piece on BBC News, but also just because this, conspiracy is everywhere at the moment, and I've had a lot of family members drift off into some interesting theories, and it can have a very big impact on families and friends, can't it?
Absolutely. Throughout the pandemic, and to be honest, also during the US election and various conspiracy theories that have spread around that, I've had numerous people get in touch with me, really, really worried about friends, about family, about next door neighbours who have started to believe conspiracy theories that could cause real world harm and that have totally changed their worldview so that they are ultimately destructive to their relationships. And I think it's really important that we don't just think of this stuff as sort of quirky ideas lurking in the dark corners of the internet. This has a real world impact. It's been linked to arson, coronavirus misinformation has been linked to arson attacks. It's been linked to people falling iller than they should have and possibly even dying as a consequence, taking dodgy cures, and a whole range of really terrible personal effects, relationships breaking down. So it's not something that is niche anymore, really, and it's also something we should be very worried about.
Yeah, we're going to have a proper little chat in a second, but first we're going to play that extraordinary interview you did, bad Scouse English. You may have seen it on the TV or the website. It's with Sebastian Shemirani, who's got first-hand experience of all of this. His mother, Kate, is a leading conspiracy theory influencer. That is a role I've never heard of before. He told the BBC about the impact her beliefs had on his family.
My brother rings me and he says, Sebastian, I think we've got a problem. Mum's got 40,000 YouTube followers. And, at that point my face just dropped. I knew immediately what was going on.
Sebastian is 21, into politics, travelling, and his mum, Kate Shemirani, has become notorious for spreading conspiracy theories during the pandemic.
What she's doing is dangerous.
You nurses dancing, I'm coming for you.
This is her 5 minutes of fame.
You will stand trial for genocide.
I don't want to be here talking about, but it's something I think we've got to do before these ideas get bigger and more people fall down the same route that she's trying to take them down. You can only prevent it before it happens.
His mum has become a headliner at anti-lockdown rallies.
You know that this is all a lie, this COVID-19.
And promoted baseless conspiracy theories about 5G, vaccines and the pandemic.
That's going to go into your DNA, it's going to change you forever, which means that you are no longer of the creator, they can put a patent on you, and you cannot be genocided.
Thousands of people are taking her to be this source of truth and this saint. And I wish I could tell them all, my mum is not the person that you think she is. She's someone with a massive amount of self-interest and loves being the centre of attention.
Sebastian's concerns are about public health. There is no evidence to back up claims his mum makes about 5G and coronavirus, which have been linked to real-world damage, and she encourages followers to ignore health guidance. He was also shocked to see far-right people in her crowds.
My dad's Iranian. All of her kids are mixed race. And she's out there getting all this clout and attention from people who don't think, I should exist, and definitely wouldn't like to listen to her if they did any digging whatsoever.
What was it like growing up in your household when you were younger?
The short answer is it was hell. It's difficult to explain because we didn't live in particularly economically difficult circumstances. We had a nice big house in a good town.
As a child, he says he was frequently exposed to conspiracy theories.
Start playing these YouTube videos for me about how the Rothschilds are plotting to go live on a space station, how there's going to be this mass genocide and stuff like that. I'm 10, 11 years old and I'm bricking it, I can't believe that the genocide is coming.
Sebastian left home at 17.
She came to see me as part of the global plot.
They're now only in touch via text.
She sent me a text a couple of weeks ago saying, you need to listen to me. If you don't, you and your sister are going to die. The CIA has a plot. Half the UK's population is going to be killed within 5 years. So I asked her, who benefits from this? No response. The rant continues.
Do you think there would ever be a way of you having a relationship with her again?
I think she's too far gone to be helped. I'm never going to have a relationship with my mum again. And that's why it's important that if, someone else is coming to you and saying, I'm starting to believe this stuff, nip it in the bud. Because it takes a couple of years to completely lose somebody. And when this is over in 3 or 4 years' time, and everything she said is forgotten and the global genocide hasn't happened, people will forget about it. But, the disaster that goes on within my family and the relationships that she's losing now, that stuff stays forever.
The BBC put Sebastian's claims to Kate Shemirani. She did not directly respond to what her son said. She did tell us, from what I can see, it would appear a conspiracy theorist is actually now anyone who believes something other than what your controllers want them to believe. I find this deeply disturbing.
Yeah, that is it's difficult. Listen, really, I mean, the idea of losing your mum to this, or just stopping to having a relationship with someone that you obviously gave birth to you. Dr. Jovan Byford, I'm intrigued. What is the advice? Say if my dad came to one day, told me that the Earth was flat. What's your advice in engaging in a conversation?
Well, I think it's, first of all, the important thing to acknowledge is that people engage with conspiracy theories in a lot of different ways. I think it is often tempting to use an extreme example like Kate Shemirani and think that that is the kind of prototype of somebody who engages with conspiracy theories. I think she is very much an extreme case. There are people who really engage and become firm believers in the literal truth of conspiracy theories, and as you mentioned at the beginning, end up falling down that rabbit hole. But a lot of people who engage with conspiracy theories do so without necessarily taking conspiracy theories as being literally true. So I think that the biggest problem we face at the moment is not that we have these people who are extreme conspiracy theorists who go to these anti-lockdown rallies and so on, who sort of constantly watch videos and so on, but that we have a much larger number of people, larger proportion of the population who is beginning to recognize conspiracy theories not necessarily as being literally true, but as being worth listening to, as a legitimate opinion for others to hold, something that they can draw on selectively as they make sense of the pandemic and occasionally allude to in conversations about the pandemic. And I think the... Yeah,
sorry, I was going to say, are you suggesting there's like an element of counterculture to it? You know, like I believe something that is not mainstream, and that's kind of an identity within itself.
There is definitely that. There is definitely that. It is somehow, because I think the conspiracy theories will often feed on and build on more general suspicion of the government. So there is a leap between legitimate suspicion of the government, of the mainstream media and so on, and conspiracy theories. But conspiracy theories benefit very much from confusion, from skepticism, from a doubt about official explanations and so on. In some ways, they always, in times of turmoil, in times of crisis, like a global pandemic, conspiracy theories fill a vacuum of uncertainty. When there's any kind of uncertainty, conspiracy theories leap in there and fill in the vacuum because they provide very definitive, very clear and simple explanations for why bad things are happening to good people.
So we've got a sense of why they exist. I suppose what would be fantastic and obviously slightly impossible, but is to get a sense of how you engage in a conversation. Sure. What can you say? How do you make sure someone? I think Sebastian in that audio spoke about nip it in the bud. Is that even possible to nip it in the bud?
Well, obviously, if somebody's talking to somebody who is a committed conspiracy theorist, and this is why I think the first thing when talking to somebody is to acknowledge the scale of the task and the fact that there is nothing that a person can, there's no single silver bullet that one can, there's no argument that one can present to a believer in a conspiracy theories that will lead them to abandon their views. This is because conspiracy theories are by definition irrefutable, so any disconfirming evidence that you present to a believer in a conspiracy theory, they will simply dismiss it as part of the conspiracy. And Sebastian, I think in the interview alluded to this, where if you try to criticize a conspiracist argument, you always get either the response, well, that's what they want you to believe, or so you're either naive and duped by the conspiracist, or you are part of the conspiracy. So there is no single argument that one can present. And I would argue, and this is again something that came up in the interview, is that sometimes if you see that somebody is completely engrossed in conspiracy theories and believes them are literally true, it is probably best to walk away. There is nothing you can do to persuade a person to abandon their views.
What, walk away as in like never have a relationship with that person?
No. Well, I mean, there are lots of highly charged topics that exist in families and so on, and I think sometimes successful family relationships rest on families determining what topics they will not talk about. So we've been through Brexit, we've been through elections, and we know that sometimes when you're sitting around a family table with family members, there are certain topics that you don't go into because you're going to disagree, and sometimes it's possible to avoid actually talking about anything that is going to bring up a conspiracy theory. But where it comes to the element of obsession, like it is in with a few people, there is nothing you can do it will probably end up in a big argument and fight. So it's best, it has to be recognized that conspiracy theories are not like some other types of misinformation, because ingrained in the conspiracist argument is almost like an immunity to disconfirming evidence, because any evidence can be always interpreted in terms of the conspiracy.
So you can basically say, look, you're only saying that because you're part of the conspiracy. There's always an end point.
Or because you're naive and you've been duped by the mass media, by those in power who want you to. So in some sense, you are going to leave that conversation thinking that your collocutor has been duped by conspiracy theorists, and they are going to leave it thinking that you have been duped by the mainstream media and the government and so on. But where I think that one needs to focus attention is on people who have not yet descended down that rabbit hole. So those who are beginning to, and this is where I think Sebastian mentioned nipping it in the bud. So when you see that somebody is beginning to entertain the idea, even in a slightly playful way, or they're simply not necessarily taking conspiracy theories as literally true, but talking about them as, they're recognizing the possibility that conspiracy theories might be onto something, or that they treat conspiracy theories almost as a metaphor for, some broader social and cultural problems. This is where one can nip it in the bud. This is where one can present arguments and say, well, look, what you are saying is a conspiracy theory. It is not a legitimate criticism of what is going on, and try to basically engage them and present them with particular arguments, specific arguments, whether with factual evidence, point them to fact-checking websites, try to kind of unpick and dismantle their arguments, and so on.
There's somebody I just want to bring in. His name is Ryan. That's what we're calling him. It's not his real name. And his dad fell victim to a number of conspiracies, one of the most prominent, QAnon. Just before we speak to him, Marianne, could you just give us a sense of what QAnon is, if you can do so?
Yes. So QAnon is this baseless conspiracy theory that suggests President Trump is waging a secret war against satanic paedophiles in government, media, and business. And that might seem very US-centric. In fact, it began in the US following the 2016 election. But actually, we've seen, particularly over the course of the pandemic, it has spread far and wide. And it has these cult-like tentacles, really, that suck in all kinds of other claims and outlandish ideas. And most recently, we've seen it reach the UK under this new guise of a hashtag called Save Our Children. And this was a rebrand that QAnon supporters did in a bid to evade capture by social media sites who were cracking down on the conspiracy theorists because of the political disinformation they spread, which there are fears could spill over into real-world violence or harm. And so a lot of people in the UK have unwittingly been exposed to this conspiracy theory and disinformation, which focuses on the idea of child abuse and child trafficking, but seeks to primarily to target people who oppose President Trump with claims of this kind of abuse, the vilest sort of crimes that will make anyone think, oh gosh, that sounds awful.
Yes, the heart of the belief is that there's a cabal of satanic paedophiles, isn't there? And I've heard it described as the mother of all conspiracies. It can essentially incorporate everything, and it's a community within itself. It's given people something to kind of latch onto.
Exactly, and it's often described as a cult-like movement. It's a conspiracy theory, it's a political disinformation campaign, it's a cult, it's a community. And I think it's also really important to understand that QAnon centres on this idea of a deep state, which is effectively a cabal of people who are trying to secretly manipulate what happens in government and particularly in the US, but everywhere else. And I think that explains the fundamental mistrust in everything that lies at the heart of QAnon.
Well, Ryan, I'd just like to bring you in here and just to get a sense of what it actually feels like to have this happen to you. So your dad was, a normal guy up until he started to believe in QAnon. Can you tell me a bit of a sense of what happened?
Yeah, definitely. So about maybe 10 years ago, he was just very involved with conspiracy theories, from the get-go. I mean, mainly focusing on like alien type stuff, like government was trying to keep people from knowing that type of information. But around maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, he started talking more about like the Democratic Party being involved in like satanic rituals and Hillary Clinton drinking the blood of children and stuff like that. And I gradually like started to realize like it was about he was involved in QAnon, and it's been very difficult to see and witness, and very frustrating because you can't even have like a normal conversation without him bringing up like certain aspects of the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, what's it like feel like to be in that scenario? Like I couldn't even imagine it. My dad. I mean, has it ruined your relationship?
I wouldn't say it's ruined our relationship. You know, we still have conversations and stuff, but you know, like if we talk for like, I don't know, longer than 5 or 10 minutes, it just automatically somehow turns to some type of form of conspiracy theory, and he can go on for hours and hours just delving further and further into like an abyss of misinformation.
But you mentioned that even so 10 years ago, he started kind of with maybe conspiracy light, that there may have been aliens, or, you know, what was his kind of movement into conspiracy? Do you know? Yeah,
or, you know, I'd even say further back than that. But, yeah, he would just, you know, it was more like just like questioning, like, I don't know, reality, like what is like out there, like, do aliens exist? Like maybe there's something on the moon, or like, but, you know, I feel like definitely access to the internet, access to YouTube, that's their algorithms. They just push further and further down the rabbit hole and expose him to like different conspiracy theories, and everything just somehow just lines up in his viewpoint. Because yeah, it just seems like, I don't know, reading into QAnon, like they kind of portray everything as being connected, and yeah, it's like an alternate reality. It's like he's living on a different plane.
And why do you think this has happened? I mean, is he looking for an answer? You know, does he feel like he needs some kind of control of the world, or?
I think it's definitely an aspect of control, because I don't know, like you consider like the world's just become like so isolated, and people have become like just relationships with family members and friends have become more distant, and having some type of thing to grasp onto, I don't know, it just gives you more like sense of purpose, sense of reasoning about where you stand in the world, and having, I don't know, like just, I mean, there's also like the play of like just narcissism, you know, just knowing what other people don't know, even if it isn't factual. I don't know, it just gives, like, it's like stoking the ego.
Dr. Jovan, is this a fairly typical story of a movement into conspiracy?
Well, I think that one thing that is definitely true, and that is the kind of the motives that lead people down that route. I think that, you know, the sense of social isolation is definitely a one of the factors, but I think the fact that conspiracy theories give the person subscribing to them this feeling that they are in the know, that they're part of some heroic minority that is actually managed to not to be duped by the conspirators, and it actually realizes what really happens in the world, is a huge generator of self-esteem, and it is something that keeps people in the conspiracy theory, because it provides some kind of sense of self-importance and so on. The movement from kind of concern with UFOs and aliens and conspiracy theories is actually very interesting, because it was in the 1980s and 1990s, so in the period before the X-Files sort of capitalized on this idea of aliens and conspiracy. I think it was a time especially in the United States when conspiracy theories were getting a bit of a bad name, and one way in which they sought new audiences and new legitimacy was to actually start to appeal to people who were known at the time as ufologists, because they provided them with an explanation as to why we don't have more evidence of alien life. So they incorporated that into the conspiracy theory. So they effectively sucked in a whole community of people who until then were simply interested in aliens and UFO life and whatever, into this kind of broader conspiracy theory about the governments hiding their knowledge about alien life and so on and so forth, which then draws a whole different community into the world of conspiracy, into the world of conspiracy theories. But going back to QAnon, I think Mariana provided a perfect summary of what QAnon is. But what I think is actually fascinating about it is that there is nothing in QAnon, in the way that it works, in the claims that it makes, in how it operates as a sort of almost like a cult or a community and so on, that is in any way new. That is exactly how conspiracy theories have always operated. The themes that we find in QAnon conspiracy theories have been around for decades, if not centuries. The idea of deep state, for instance, has been the primary theme of conspiracy theories in the United States since the early 20th century. Before then, conspiracy theories were always obsessed that the threat to America comes from outside. From the early 20th century, conspiracy theories have been going on about this idea that American democracy has been subverted from within by this hidden cabal of powerful individuals who work deep down and control political and economic life and so on. The idea of sexual abuse and so on, we have had that as recently as the Pizzagate at the time of the previous elections. Alex Jones has been harping on for decades about members of the elite sacrificing children at the Bohemian Grove in California and so on. So all of these ideas, and this is one thing that is important about conspiracy theories, they always sound exactly the same because they're always just simply regurgitating the same ideas and reinventing them, applying them to new circumstances.
Okay. Ryan, I just want to take it back for a minute to what it's like to actually talk to a family member who is a conspiracy theorist. Have you had any success in your conversations with your dad where you feel as though you might have got him back? You feel, and he's listening.
I really can't say that I have. There have been moments where I do try to, display like facts. But, the issue with that is like people have like, everyone says like fake news, calls like, even BBC, CNN, ABC, they call all of that fake news. So if you try and show like some form of factual source, they'll just say that's false. So it's they'll show their own alternative facts in response. So I can't say that I have had any success in trying to steer them in the right direction.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and I hope you can have a better relationship with your dad.
Thank you, Colin.
We're now going to go to the news with Rob Schofield. I'll see you after the news.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
President Macron of France has announced a new national lockdown as cases of coronavirus surge around Europe. From Friday until at least the 1st of December, people across France will be required to stay at home unless they have a valid reason to be out. Schools and factories will remain open. A month-long partial lockdown is also coming into force in Germany. Here, the Justice Secretary Robert Buckland has said that Christmas in its fullest sense may not be achievable for any of us this year. And a report has revealed that dozens of COVID patients were discharged from hospital into care homes in Scotland early in the pandemic, despite having tested positive for the virus. Today's report by Public Health Scotland says hospital discharge is associated with an increased risk of an outbreak, but concludes that it is not statistically significant when other factors such as care home size are taken into account. In sport, Marcus Rashford came off the bench at Old Trafford to score a clinical hat-trick as Manchester United beat RB Leipzig LEIPZIG 5-0 in the Champions League. Chelsea won 4-0 away to Krasnodar to also move top of their group. Hakim Ziyech scored his first goal for the club in Russia. Barcelona comfortably beat Juventus 2-0 in Turin, while England's Jadon Sancho netted for Borussia Dortmund. Everton's on-loan forward Moise Kean scored 2 goals for PSG, who also lost Neymar to injury. In the Championship, Bournemouth beat Bristol City 1-0 to go second. Millwall are fourth after winning away to Preston. Derby's draw at with Cardiff, was enough to lift them out of the relegation zone on goal difference. Bottom side Sheffield Wednesday had a man sent off in a 3-0 defeat to Rotherham. An unauthorised drone halted play momentarily there. The rest of the results are on the BBC Sport website. And in Super League, St Helens boss Christian Wolff wants the regular 2020 season to end early, with a playoff series replacing it. COVID-19 cases and threadbare squads have led to games being cancelled this week.
5 Live Breakfast.
Let me ask you this one. How are you planning to celebrate Christmas?
Pete in Leeds says this: can't wait for Christmas, no family, no friends, no stupid games. I can watch Zulu undisturbed.
Zulu?
Pete. Zulu.
Michael Caine classic.
Caine, isn't it?
Anyway, don't mind me. Christmas is just one day. Our grandchildren in London, we're in Shropshire, so can't view them in the week. That's from Lorna in Shrewsbury. Another one, Christmas is just one day. This is not from Lorna in Shrewsbury, it's from Margie. Just lovely to see friends and family, but we don't need yet another phone-in about it. Oh, listen, are you the editor, Margie?
Maybe she should be.
5 Live Breakfast. Back tomorrow from 6. Across the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live with Ben Zand.
Welcome back. We're talking about conspiracy theories. What do you do if a member of your family gets caught up in one? How do you bring them back? How do you talk to them without it being a massive argument? I'm joined by Dr. Jovan Byford. He's a senior lecturer in psychology at the Open University, and Marianne Spring. She's the BBC's specialist disinformation reporter. We're now going to actually speak to somebody who's had first-hand experience of how conspiracy theories can tear a family apart. He texted us to say that he's not spoken to his son for more than 3 years after a massive argument about whether the moon landings were faked. We're going to call him John to protect his identity. Hello, John.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Can you give me a bit of a sense of what happened with your son?
Yeah, I mean, he's one person we can argue about politics. And politics, you can't prove anything. You're like where he claimed the Chancellor was on cocaine, that's why the country was in a state. But that wasn't the problem. But when it came to the moon landings, obviously I grew up when the moon landings happened. And the Sky at Night says you can actually see where the moon landings were, but he went, oh no, that's fake. I said, well, yeah, but you've got to remember the Russians at the time. If that was fake, the Russians would have pointed out. And like, in the end, he just got this chair and threw it at the window in the restaurant, called me a 4-letter name and walked out, and that was it.
And you haven't spoken to him since?
But one thing you might have missed is that his generation rent don't want to pay the TV licence. So they get all their news off of YouTube and the internet. And that's how they get into the conspiracy theories.
Marianne, you've spent quite a lot of time with people who you could call conspiracy theorists. Have you had any luck in the sense of people who have maybe changed their mind? Could you speak to John maybe and give him some advice if you have any?
Yeah, I think it can be very difficult, especially when the conversation has become increasingly polarized and you both don't agree on what in this case the moon landings or whatever else. I think that there are certain things we can do to make it easier to have a conversation. The first one is to try and have it on neutral footing. Try to listen to the concerns often at the heart of the conspiracy theory. I think that applies more so to coronavirus misinformation and that kind of thing, because a lot of people have been feeling really worried and frightened. So it makes sense that they have turned to conspiracy theories often for quick answers or to help them make sense of things. But some of those perhaps less acutely harmful conspiracy theories that feed into that way of thinking can often derive from a mistrust in something, a mistrust of authority, and an experience that made us totally doubt the structures in society that were meant to protect us. And that's something I often find when I talk to people who've been taken in by conspiracy theories. I also think that it's really important to present someone with the facts. But that alone often isn't enough. So actually, to ask someone a lot of quite probing questions about why and how, ask them, why would anyone do this? Even if it was totally true, why would anyone want to do this? Why would they decide to, and how on earth would they execute it? That would be so difficult. How would you go about doing that? And it's often in asking those quite practical, rational questions that it's easier to deconstruct the argument, because they won't have a comeback that makes any sense. Whereas I often find when I talk to people who've been taken in by conspiracy theories, they have a whole arsenal of really quite complex evidence to substantiate what they're saying. And so that can be really, really effective. And I do think, although this probably isn't that helpful for you right now, but the advice of just talking about it and tackling it as soon as possible, because the further down the rabbit hole someone gets, the harder it is to address that. And I also wanted to pick up on the point you made about younger people. I think it's really important that we don't just always talk about mums and dads and uncles and aunties and grandparents being taken in by harmful disinformation or conspiracy theories. There is an issue with older people perhaps having less social media literacy when it comes to the different social media platforms that they use, and perhaps being more inclined, as research shows, to believe stuff they see on the internet. But as you rightly point out, a lot of younger people spend a lot of time online, and they get the majority of their information from social media sites, whether that's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook. And as a consequence, they are hyper exposed to conspiracy theories. And that can mean that conspiracy theory way of thinking becomes more quickly ingrained or is more quickly adopted. And I think it's really important to emphasize that this can affect anyone, and particularly during a pandemic when people are really, really worried. We've seen people of all generations and of all different backgrounds be taken in by harmful conspiracy theories.
John, what do you think your son would do if you tried to re-engage in a conversation with him?
He's told me to politely go away. But I was reminded yesterday in the barbers, because my 50-year-old barber said the reason they've cut all the flights is not because of COVID. COVID's invented by the green people to stop you flying. Save the planet. And I thought, oh my God.
But what I mean,
think that's a perfect example of someone trying to subscribe. They've tried to work backwards to come up with a reason, because coronavirus is hard to understand and it's complex.
It's just unbelievable that someone in their 50s would believe that.
John, what's it actually like, though? And obviously this is a human story. It's your son. So what's it like to not have a relationship with him because of this?
It's horrible. He was my best friend. He came to live with me for 2 years. He was the only one I could have a decent argument on politics. And his conspiracy theories on politics didn't matter because you can't really prove them. I don't know if the Chancellor's on cocaine or not. There's no way I can prove that. But you just sort of gloss over it and just like banter. But it was the moon landing one that just it was really strange how it happened. And then for the violence, to just get up in a restaurant and throw your chair at the window and try to break the window of the restaurant and walk out and leave me with his girlfriend.
Dr. Jovan, do you think is the solution here the only real choice for John to just accept that this is what his son believes and to try and have a relationship with him outside of that?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. I mean, moon landings, in and of itself, the moon landing conspiracy theories are fairly neutral. Unlike with some of the coronavirus conspiracy theories, they don't lead to people endangering their own lives by not following guidance. So in some sense, it's a belief whether it happened or not. My suggestion would be to basically get in touch with your son and don't talk about whether moon landing was true or a fake, but talk about how you're going to pursue a relationship in a way that you are not going to talk about the moon landing. So in other words, create a boundary against this incredibly inflammatory topic and don't talk about it, which I think for all intents and purposes, it should be fairly straightforward to do. In the same way that there are plenty of families that don't talk about Brexit around the dinner table, or that don't touch religion as a topic because they will disagree.
What do you think, John?
He's refusing to talk. I've approached him through his girlfriend. because his girlfriend's on Facebook. She's still friends with me. But he's told me to go away. Doesn't want to talk to me, completely block me.
And all this is because of the moon landing conversation. This is where it stems from.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's so passionate about that?
He just thinks I don't believe him and don't trust him, which is not true. So, yeah.
I mean,
completely gone. If he won't even talk to me, there's nothing I can do. I don't even know where he lives now.
Marianne, have you? I mean, is this a fairly common story when it comes to conspiracy with people you've met? That relationships break down to this level?
It is something that I'm worryingly seeing a lot more of. I think particularly in the past 6-8 months with the pandemic, it's something that has definitely become less niche and much more of a common thing. And I think a combination of the rise of social media, people using it lots, added with really difficult world circumstances, has resulted in that. I think prior to the pandemic, we'd talk a lot about polarization online and how people would have big fallings out about politics and other issues at their dinner tables or at Christmas time. But in many ways, this is much more destructive than that, because this is often about a worldview and it's about a way that we look at things. And once someone starts to fall down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole, the entire way that they look at the world can be distorted and changed. And so it makes it increasingly difficult to have a conversation and also to have a relationship. After the interview I did with Sebastian Cheremani, I had a number of people get in touch with me again, with just really heartbreaking stories about how their husband or their son or their auntie or their grandparent had begun to go down this rabbit hole and that they feared it was past the point of no return. And that can be an even more contentious issue when there are concerns about public health, when there are concerns about family members putting others at risk of catching coronavirus, and when there are concerns about elections and voting. I've spoken to a number of US voters who fear that political disinformation promoted by QAnon has impacted people that they know and care about. But not just that it could impact what happens in the days after polling, with people suggesting they'd want to take to the streets or grab their guns and that kind of real world violence. So I think that the breakdown of relationships is something that we're increasingly seeing that is very distressing, and often along with that there are the other risks that come to the wider public and that intensify those feelings for the people who are friends with or love or care about those who are taken in by these conspiracy theories.
Dr. Jovan, I'd like to pick up one thing with you. You mentioned before that the kind of moon landing is a neutral conspiracy, and if somebody's listening and say their mum or dad is saying something, I've had experience with this myself. My dad often says things. He's an Iranian man. He says things about politics which are skeptical to say the least. But do you think that there are levels to conspiracy? Is there a hierarchy in regards to conspiracy of what you should be worried about and others that you can just kind of pass off as maybe not so problematic? It's not really going to cause too many problems.
Well, the idea that moon landing was faked can be imagined, or rather that theory can be told in a way that appears to be completely apolitical. So it's a little bit of fun, if you like. It doesn't have to have any kind of broader political connotations. But if you were to talk to somebody who is a firm believer in moon landing, and you try to probe their beliefs, the very idea that a government agency such as NASA could have concealed something for 50 years without ever there being a whistleblower, without ever any evidence of the fakery coming out, suggests a much broader way in which the world works, which suggests that nothing is as it seems, and that we can never be certain about whether what we are told is true. So in some sense, if viewed completely in isolation, people often joke about moon landing being faked and so on. It is almost like this paradigmatic conspiracy theory. In and of itself is not problematic, but the worldview underpinning it is that nothing is as it seems. It is almost kind of the epitome of this ultimate suspicion of that things that we know about the past, about the present, and so on is not what it seems, because somebody out there has the ability to conceal the evidence and dupe the whole world. But what I was particularly interested in this last contribution from your caller is this very strong emotional dimension. So it ended up in a row. And I think you will very often find that the reason why talk about conspiracy theories ends in a disagreement is because conspiracy theories are not just stories about what is true and what is not. They are, they don't seduce people by the power of their argument. They do it by the strength of the passions that they stir. So conspiracy theories are always about some feeling of resentment, about indignation, disenchantment about something. They're always about, they make people feel good about themselves, about what they know and what you know, and so on. So there is always this very strong emotional charge in talking about conspiracy theories, which is exactly why talking about them is not just talking about neutrally about facts and about evidence. It is talking about something that is from the outset very emotionally charged. And I think one of the ways that when if I was to give advice to people how to talk about conspiracy theories is not to allow tempers to flare, to be prepared to de-escalate the situation, to step back, but to keep the dialogue going, but in a way that is not going to end up in a big quarrel, because nobody will be able to it's impossible to influence somebody in a shouting match. It has to be done in a way that will always de-escalate the situation and prevent tempers from flaring.
And I suppose there's one elephant in the room that we've yet to speak about, and I'm sure some listeners will probably be thinking, is that politicians do lie. Stories are often not as they seem, and sometimes there are genuine cover-ups. So where is the line between reasonable scepticism and realising that some things need to be challenged? You can't just take people's words for it, government's words for it, and genuine conspiracy?
Well, I think there are very important differences, and it is very easy to sort of when you talk to conspiracy theorists, and this is again part of the whole issue about how do you talk to people who've been seduced by conspiracy theories, is the first argument that you're going to hear is how can you deny the possibility of a conspiracy when we know that, and they will use an example like they lied about this, they lied about that, we know that Volkswagen conspired to fake their emissions data, so we know that businesses are up to no good. We know that the American government had followed and listened into covertly to people's internet communication and so on. So we know that the actual conspiracies exist, but the key difference is in the approach to evidence. So people who actually have exposed real life conspiracies have done so through the examination of evidence, and they have generally been, mainstream journalists. They have been representatives of government agencies. It has been through whistleblowers and so on. So we have never had a conspiracy theorist reveal a real conspiracy.
From the outside looking in, it seems like community seems to play quite a big part in it, in the sense, you suddenly fit into a group who think similar things to you, and you feel as though you have a level of control. And Marianne, I'd just like to speak to you about this, because Sebastian Cimarrani talks about his mum became very popular as a consequence of doing this. How often do you think popularity, a sense of identity, comes into the equation?
I think it's a really big factor here, and I think that social media has certainly accelerated and exacerbated the problem, in that it's so much easier to find other people who perhaps express these controversial and often false claims in a space where everyone begins to promote them, and so you do become part of a certain community. And we've seen that with the people who have gained a huge number of followers for spreading coronavirus misinformation and headlining some of the anti-lockdown rallies. And then we also see that with QAnon, like we've spoken about, this cult-like conspiracy theory that's come over here from the US. And so I think that is hugely important. And in many ways, it feels really important here, because we're talking about how conspiracy theories can damage those really important relationships in our lives with our parents, with our kids, with our relatives. And it's so sad to see how, to be honest, a radicalization by conspiracy theories can result in people losing those relationships, those ones that we all hold so dear to us, in favor of these communities that make them feel loved and valued, and perhaps for a time, but certainly don't, I expect, have the enduring effects that your family unit will have.
Dr. Jovan, in terms of a sense of popularity, is this due to a kind of inherent flaw we have, that we just love mystery, we love conspiracy, we love the idea that there's just something strange going on, so therefore we follow those people who tell us that there is, it's entertaining?
Well, there is an entertainment element to conspiracy theories, but I think that usually we find conspiracy theories emerging in times of crisis, and especially in times of crisis when there appears to be a discrepancy between the apparent mundaneness of the cause of an event and a very dramatic consequence. So if you are faced with a situation where there is global disruption caused by the coronavirus, and the idea that this virus happened to originate in a bat and then skip through a pangolin to a human somewhere in a wet market in China, and a few months later here we all are in lockdown, that there seems to be a mismatch between the mundaneness of the cause and the extent of the consequence. And we are somehow always expecting there to be a greater consistency between the cause and the consequence. So we are inclined to look for more dramatic causes, for more dramatic events, and conspiracy theories which are available as a cultural explanation are there to fill in that gap and to provide that more kind of controllable and comforting explanation.
John, just to bring you back in, do you think any of this applied to your son? Did he have friends with similar beliefs? Did he want a sense of community or control? Do you think what was it?
Yeah, like I say, there's a whole generation where they're basically like 4 or 5 of them renting a house and don't want to pay the TV licence, but they're all getting their news from the same source. But where I since the age of 12, I've always listened to multiple news sources. Even now, I listen to Al Jazeera, Euronews. I used to listen to Radio Moscow on shortwave. When I was younger, to get different news, but now the internet is just really bad.
Did he have a lot of friends with similar beliefs?
Yeah, I believe so. His girlfriend didn't believe it, and he's still with his girlfriend. She still talks to me, but he won't talk to me. And then she's happy to just ignore it.
And Marianne, going back to Sebastian Shemirani, what was his relationship with his mum? I know he mentioned in that he didn't think he was going to pick it up again. Who had ended that on what side?
So he'd actually left home when he was 17 years old. This wasn't a new thing to him. He says that he grew up in a household where he was frequently exposed to conspiracy theories, and it became increasingly difficult. And he went to boarding school for sixth form, and he left home when he was 17 and then went to university. And so he only keeps in touch with his mum now via text messages. And he read me out some of those text messages, and those conversations tend to be, from what he showed me, about conspiracy theories and various other baseless claims that make him really worried. But it really stayed with me that he said, I still try, I still sort of can't bear to give up. And I will message her saying things like I said, he, rather than sending her the evidence, which he knows doesn't work, he will ask those questions. Why would someone do this? What would be their motive? What would be their intention? How does this make any sense? And he said that she tends to just move the conversation along and start talking about something else without addressing his questions. But I did think it was quite poignant that he struggled to totally let go of that relationship, very understandably so. And it's something that comes across if people head over to the website and watch the video, and certainly came across when I was sitting in the room with him for a good hour, that this was very, very hard for him to talk about this. And he hoped that in doing so, not only could he try and perhaps undo some of the damage he fears that the disinformation promoted by his mum has had on public health, but also that he could help people whose relatives are beginning to believe conspiracy theories. And I hope in even us having this conversation right now, he might have succeeded in that aim.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose to both Marianne and Jovan, where does this lead? Are we essentially in a conspiracy bubble, destined to just have endless families broken up until we have a more stable society and no pandemic? Where are we going to go with this?
My view is that actually the scale of conspiracy theorizing that is going on at the moment is not unusual for the circumstances in which we find ourselves. I think dramatic social events, particularly, if you go to societies where there is a war, where there is some major political turmoil and so on, you always find conspiracy theorizing on this scale. So the pandemic has brought on this huge rise in conspiracy theorizing, which I suspect that when the pandemic finishes is going to substantially go down, but it is always going to lurk in the margins, and in case of a flare-up or another similar event, they're going to come back in the same way.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking part in that conversation. And John, I hope you get to talk to your son soon and you get to mend that relationship. After the news, we're going to be talking about travel. It's something we can't really do very much of at the moment, so we're going to live vicariously through your stories of off the beaten track, some of your craziest travel tales, glamping in UFOs, dark tourism, paying to sleep in prisons. See you then.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the BBC News at midnight, this is Jason Kay. Nottinghamshire is the latest area of England to move into the highest coronavirus alert level. From Friday, people won't be able to buy alcohol in shops after 9 p.m, but gyms and leisure centres will remain open. Local leaders say the measures are necessary to halt a rapid spread of the infection, but some of them complained that the government was very slow to give them details. The leader of Ashfield District Council, Jason Zadrozny, said he only learned what was happening this morning.
The briefing was this morning about what the government were imposing on us. They wanted it to come in at midnight tonight, which was lunacy. We managed to get them to put it back to a minute past midnight on Thursday so that we could communicate better. And we know that it will be Tier 3 plus. Beauty salons, tattoo parlours, sunbed places, and they'll be asked to close.
Also at midnight tomorrow, France will go into a second national lockdown until at least the end of next month. Non-essential businesses such as restaurants and bars will close, but schools and factories will remain open. President Emmanuel Macron said without drastic action, hospitals would very soon be unable to cope. An epidemiologist and a former member of the French Academy of Sciences, Dominique Costagliola, says the virus appears to be spreading faster since the weather's become colder.
The rise was coming from the early September. We knew that it's going to be worse if you don't act at this moment. Perhaps what has been surprising is a very rapid increase in the last 2 weeks. This is probably explained by the change in temperature this period.
Germany will impose a partial lockdown during next month too. Bars, restaurants, gyms and cinemas will close. Schools and shops will stay open. An overnight curfew has been imposed in Philadelphia following 2 nights of protests and looting after police killed a black man. Officers said he refused to drop his knife. His family said he was mentally ill. The artist Tracy Emin has revealed that she was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. The 57-year-old had surgery on a bladder tumour 2 months ago and is now in remission. But in an interview with the website ArtNet, she says that she's not ready to make any new art as she doesn't have the energy. Manchester United are top of their Champions League group after beating the leaders of Germany's Bundesliga RB Leipzig 5-0 at Old Trafford. Marcus Rashford came off the bench to score a hat-trick. Our football correspondent John Murray watched the game.
Manchester United at the 4th attempt won at Old Trafford for the first time this season, and what a win to make it 2 out of 2 in the Champions League and move into a strong position in what was a tricky looking group. And Marcus Rashford what a display. It was something else. Amazing night for him.
Chelsea are also top of their group after a 4-0 win away to the Russian side Krasnodar. And the weather, a band of rain will arrive from the Atlantic overnight and spread across the UK tomorrow. And that's the BBC News at 3 minutes past midnight.
Hear the best live sport this November with 5 Live Sports Extra on the BBC Sounds app, including women's football,
Vivian Miedemar with her 50th goal in the WSL,
Formula One practice sessions and qualifying.
That last lap, it got better and better as I went through it.
Rugby union.
towards the line, and it's going to be a try. Right place, right time.
International and IPL cricket.
Slog sweep over mid-wicket.
And much more.
The best live sports.
5 Live Sports Extra.
Listen on BBC Sound.
Pandemic has had an enormous impact on the travel industry. It's been pretty hard to organise a UK-based trip, let alone a foreign holiday. And to be honest, it is the thing I miss the most about all of this. I usually travel quite a lot, and now I'm stuck in my house, and it's insanely boring. So for the rest of the show, we thought we'd spend the hour with No Name indulging our wanderlust, talking to adventurers, owners of holiday destinations, and most importantly, you, about some of the paths less trodden. We can reminisce about the best places you've been to, or look forward to that place you've always dreamed of going. We'll be hearing We'll be hearing from the man who coined the term dark tourism, a traveller who's visited every single country on planet Earth. And if planet Earth's not your thing, we'll be speaking to the owner of a glamping spot where you can sleep in a UFO. Why the hell wouldn't you do that? We definitely need your input on this as well, or it's going to be quite a long hour. Tell us about the greatest destination you've been to on Earth. Text 85058. We've got some well-travelled guests in this next hour. Give us somewhere none of them will have ever been. Comedian Neil Delamere, a friend of and veteran of the show, is with me for the next hour. Hello, Neil.
Hey, how are you? A veteran of the show. That's so depressing.
I know. I mean, I'm literally not a veteran of the show. I'm a fledgling guest because this is my first show, so it's quite.
Well, welcome. As a veteran to a newbie.
I know. Yeah. What should I know?
What should you know? I'll tell you. I can tell you something that'll make you feel depressed, but
that's not very nice.
Well, no, you'll feel depressed on my behalf because you are full of wanderlust at the moment. I am allowed to leave my house, but I'm only allowed to go 5 kilometres because that's the lockdown we're in at the moment.
Oh my goodness!
5 kilometres.
Where can you go in that 5k range?
Well, which one of these is the odd one out, Ben? Okay, which one makes Irish people sound deeply sinister? You're allowed to leave the 5k radius for work, for further education, or to visit a grave.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's for relatives, but it does make us sound like we're in the mafia.
I feel like that is the definition of dark tourism, isn't it? Going to random grave sites, just a little holiday.
Yeah, it does sound like you're going to be pulled over by the police and you're just like, where are you going? I'm going to the forest because the lime didn't do its job. But I know it's for people who actually, they're visiting relations, but it does sound a bit dodgy. But yeah, I'm even more isolated than you are at the moment.
Yeah, what's that like then? I mean, are you dreaming of lands you could disappear to?
Oh man, I'd just love to go on a beach somewhere and lie there and read a Joe Nesbo book and do absolutely nothing. Maybe
so is that you then? If I had to, because I think you can sum people up quite well with where would they travel? And are you like a book on the beach, cheeky little cocktail type of dude, or do you like want to go and Machu Picchu it up and see some culture?
I have Machu Picchu'd it up, actually. I'll have you know. Actually, when I was with a brilliant guide.
I don't believe it. I think you just go all inclusive. Down the drinks, get the wristband 10 minutes in, sit there for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Parties all the way, my friend. A coach trip and a phone party. No, I did go to Machu Picchu. My favourite part of Machu Picchu was this brilliant tour guide, and you can chew coca leaves, and he says, do you want to chew coca leaves? And I said, I'm okay. And he goes, no, it'll make you feel strong like asparagus. And I went, what? And he went, strong like asparagus.
Asparagus is renowned for being the strongest material.
Yeah, makes your pee smell and really strong. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, like asparagus, like the film with Kirk Douglas. I'm asparagus. No, I'm asparagus. No, I'm asparagus. And everybody else on the tour was like, do you mean Spartacus? And he went, yes, asparagus.
Oh, Spartacus. Yeah. That makes sense.
He just kept saying it. But
it's funny because it's my first day on the show. I was pretending to get the joke. So I didn't I wanted our relationship to be good for the whole time. If we're going to be meeting each other here,
Don't worry.
I was like, I have to laugh, and then I got it.
That's why I gave you the extra line, because I knew, and so the listeners, that you didn't get it. So I had to explain. It's all good. We're in a spirit of love. But no, usually for a holiday for me, I would kind of lie on a beach and then do one or two things that you could only do in that place, and that kind of assuages the guilt, really,
Well, so this is quite a cool hour. We're just talking really about some fun times. It's quite positive considering all the carnage in the world at the moment, and we've got an unbelievably interesting guest who I've actually met before. I think Graham Hughes. He's travelled.
Hi, Ben.
How you doing? We've met, haven't we?
Hi, Graham.
I'm sure
I
we
think
have.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have.
We're representing the Scouse contingent.
Yeah, you're from
tonight,
Liverpool,
aren't we?
so everybody's met everybody. And Neil is Irish, so that's pretty much Scouse.
Who supports Liverpool. So that's
exactly.
us, yeah.
There you go. But so I'll give you the proper intro, Graham, just so I build you up, because you jumped in there a bit too early. But so there are 193 countries in the world, as recognised by the UN as member states. There aren't many people who can claim to visit them all, but Graham is one of them, and he did it without even flying. How the hell did you do that, Graham?
With great difficulty. When I started off, I thought it would take me a year. It ended up taking me just over 4 years to do it. The big difficulty was the islands. I mean, when countries are attached to each other, it's paperwork, and you have to queue up, and I get that. But trying to get to this far-flung island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that has one supply ship that goes once every 6 months, it's a little bit tricky. So that was me trying to just get to places like Nauru and Tuvalu and places that I hadn't really heard of before I started the journey.
So were you the first person to do that?
Yeah. I came up with the idea, and I took it to Guinness World Records and said, can I do this? And they went, okay, here's the rules. And my rule was don't fly. But they had other rules on there as well. They said, I'm not allowed to drive myself in case I break the speed limit. For 4 years, doesn't make much of a difference. There was one point where I was in Nigeria, and I was trying to bribe the driver. He says, we want you taking public transport, because we don't want you bribing someone to go too fast on public roads. And I'm like, I was trying to bribe this driver to slow down and get on the right side of the motorway.
Well, one question I've got, actually, because I think with when I'm listening to the radio...
questions.
Oh, yeah, okay, I have multiple questions. But when I'm listening to the radio, there's often bits that people say and they jump over, and I'm like, well, what the hell did that mean? How do you take an idea to the Guinness Book of Records? What did you do? What does that even mean?
You just apply online on the website. You can look up the records that have been set, and they have various rules now. So you can't really set a record that can't be broken.
That seems logical.
So there's a few, and so everything has to be beatable. So I couldn't necessarily say I was the first person to visit every country in the world without flying. I'd say I was the fastest person to visit every country in the world without flying. So if anyone wants to beat my record, it's 4 years and 1 month.
And how did you prove it?
I had over 400 hours of footage. I had over 10,000 photographs. I had over 100,000 GPS